accelerate quickly before the line.
Which Franco Colapinto was never going to do because he's got the scaffolding on around his car. There'll be no point going for a qualifying lap while that is there. Right, whilst we watch Franco Colapinto, let us head down to Ferrari again. Ruth Buscombe is outside their garage.
Yes, and I'm back at my favourite diffuser of the day. That Scuderia Ferrari diffuser. We spotted it this morning and then we got to see it in action straight after. And it is proper detail engineering, and Dijon, our lovely cameraman, is going to try and get you a shot of it, but you're going to have to take my word for it. But what Ferrari have done is they've really pushed that working volume of the diffuser without breaching the regulatory writ. So the outer wall is effectively kind of blended into the FIA deflector stack. So although on paper the geometry looks compliant, aerodynamically they're kind of controlling that lateral expansion. So what that basically does is it effectively gives them a bigger working area without triggering any of the scrutineering alarms. So that inner roof extension, they've stretched it forward, capped it with a non-leading strake, and what it's really going to do, it's effectively kind of preconditioning that flow before it fully expands. So it's not just about peak downforce, it's also about usable downforce. So, you know, effectively that does work very well. It'll give you kind of a load that survives in traffic and also in dirty air. I love it. I'm a bit of an engineering geek, but I like that as upgrades go. And a cynic or a bit of praise might say they only put it on the car this late, so nobody else could copy it ahead of the first race. Well done. I like that. Diffuser of the day.
Exactly what they needed to do. Why give the competition a head start on that one? And there is nothing wrong with being an engineering geek. Quite frankly, we need more engineering geeks on this planet. In fact, I don't even want to use the word geek on that one. Engineering experts.
It should be applauded, not ridiculed, Crofty.
Exactly. Where would I be without you? Engineering font of knowledge.
Geeks for all the world. End of.
See, there you are. You're using it again. See, it's cool to be clever.
Absolutely.
How about that one?
Yeah, kids, if you're listening, you're watching it, absolutely believe in Uncle Crofty. He's absolutely right. Cool to be clever.
Right, Carlos Sainz, ladies and gentlemen, on the track in the Williams. This is second lap of the day. Alex Albon on duty this morning in the morning session for Williams. How hard is Carlos Sainz pushing on this particular lap?
He's one of these drivers I'm fascinated to see at work this year, because he's one of the smart drivers, isn't he? Speaking of clever people, he's one of the drivers. He found that the trick with the DRS line, fighting Sergio Perez in A1 ring, in Red Bull ring a couple of years ago, where, do you remember, he kept getting him back all the time and using Lando Norris as a defense mechanism.
Yes,
as well in Singapore. He's so smart to be right on board with George Russell now. No, it sounds like he's doing a very slow speed cruise mode.
Doesn't sound good.
I hope so, anyway. Now, George he's very sensitive to the steering weight and vibrations. We often hear him, don't we? Yeah, commenting on steering feel, and he obviously gets a lot of feedback in terms of the balance of the car through the steering wheel, maybe more than other drivers do. And you know, that's something that intrigues me, because different drivers will feel the car in a different way. Some will rely more with their inner gyro, say the inner ear fluid moving in the inner ear to give them the sense of balance and therefore balance of the car. Some, like George, might use the steering feel, the torque that comes back through his hands and his arms, to tell him whether the car's about to snap with oversteer or break into a bit of understeer if the thing goes a bit lighter. And that's generally what tends to happen as you turn into a corner like turn 10. If it starts to go a bit light in your hands, you turn in, and you saw Ollie Behrman make a correction there. And maybe he felt, oh no, I've gone over the edge of the grip of the tyre. It starts to become light in your hands, and you bring it back from there, and you get the weight back in the steering. And maybe George is just one of those drivers that we often hear him complaining or commenting on the steering, the feel of the car, more than other drivers, I'd say. So, and it's just, yeah, maybe he picks up those cues from that.
Is it something he has to live with, or can they solve that issue quite quickly? And if he does have to live with it, how much of a difference does that make to whatever stint you're running at that time?
He's one of these drivers, George Russell, has an incredible amount of capacity as he's driving, and he might just feel like it's necessary to relay that information back to the design team that are designing the front suspension componentry or the steering geometry, and it's all interesting information. Whether or not they can act on that right now, here, today, I don't know, but it's all, for him, he feels like that's interesting information. It might not be a complaint, he's literally just passing on information to the team.
Okay, engine cover is coming off. Aston Martin, yeah.
How many laps today so far, Crofty?
Right, so today, Fernando Alonso put in
28.
28 so far today.
And Stroll
hasn't done a lap.
Okay.
Yeah.
28, so yeah, we've got Leclerc 70 laps on the board, Norris 54, Antonelli 69, Albon, that's a good day for Williams so far, 55. And Alpine have had a good day as well with Gasly 61. So most of them are, yeah, above the 50 mark, and then you've got...
Is that to be expected? They've upped the revs a bit because they've got to start pushing that engine. So is it to be expected that they've done a little less? I mean, you don't want to see Honda engineers kneeling by the side of a car and the engine cover coming off.
No, not a good sign, but I don't know. I haven't got that kind of information whether they're actually running the power unit more aggressively here this week. It would make sense if they were.
They've got to do it at some stage.
Yeah, that's right. So whether that has brought on these problems, I don't know. But yeah, they missed most of the Barcelona shakedown in inverted commas. Most teams will refer to that one as a test. And you know, they're trying to, I'm guessing they're playing catch up still, but so you would, if any team, you'd expect them and Williams to be playing catch up, you'd expect them to be out there.
Just a thought, as George Russell powers down the straight and completes yet another lap, or for him, that was lap number 5 of the afternoon session. Kimi Antonelli did 69 laps this morning. Obviously last year we'd see a driver complete a push lap. Mike Kraken, Chris Cronin in conversation.
We have a power chat going on there, isn't it, by the looks of things?
Chief engineer, trackside and senior race engineer having the chat there. Last year we'd see a driver complete a lap and then they would have to have a slow lap to recharge the battery. They don't have to do that this year, of course. But will they need a cool lap to cool the tyres down? And so whatever the issue was, it wasn't going to keep the car in the garage for a long time. And out then comes Lance Stroll.
That's good to see. We're jumping to conclusions, Crofty.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, are we going to need the tyres to have a cool down? Or say we're getting to that crucial time in qualifying where a driver might have made a bit of a mistake on his lap, and you know, we'd say last year, well, that's it, they're out of qualifying because they've got to recharge the battery. Now, can they just go for it again, and will the tyres be cool enough to allow them to do that?
Yeah, basically the battery's not the problem anymore. It'll be more the tyres that need that cool down or a double cool down, which we would often see, wouldn't we? A double cool lap, and you didn't need the double cool lap for the battery. You needed it for the tyres. So I think you'll still see the cool down laps for the tyres and maybe even double cool as well. But so this is George Russell on which looks like more of a race run. He's on the hard tyre.
Carlos Sainz who had a lock-up, by the way, just ahead of him.
That, yeah, good spot, because I did think, oh, is that... I saw the dark lines on the tarmac and I wondered if it actually came from the Mercedes. That is the Mercedes.
George Russell who's had a lock-up in turn 4.
So yeah, that wasn't in turn 1, but definitely in turn 4. I think this is more of a race run for Russell at this stage. The high 37s, low 1 minute 38s would suggest it's that kind of pace that the car can do at the moment, and that's points to race runs. You hear there the downshifts down into second, maybe even first gear for turn 10. It's hard for the drivers to do because it can cause more lockups. Let's have a listen to this.
and there it is.
Yeah, just maybe combined with a bit of the turbulence from the car in front. I hope not, because I like to think these cars can follow each other closer than that without causing mistakes. But it's just one of those things. You know what's so hard for these drivers, Crofty, must be just trying to forget what these cars were like last year, approaching the same corners as last year with all those references. It's almost like the memory that you have, the experience that you have,
forget it,
is unwanted. Actually, it's it might be more damaging than good. There's that great view of the rake of that Aston Martin at slow speed.
Extreme, isn't it?
It really is.
Does that mean Arvid Lindblad then is your favourite for the title this year?
He comes in with the least noise, doesn't he? It's just in his head, his own head. He hasn't got, the only reference he's got of this track is an F2 car.
Yeah.
So this car must feel incredible compared to that. So for him, happy days. This is the most grip he's ever had.
It's just on the subject of this year. I was minding my own business a couple of weeks ago when my phone went.
You never do that.
I know, and I didn't.
What a rarity.
It was a complete rarity. I was having a quiet moment. I was actually at Silverstone. I just popped up to Silverstone for a couple of hours, and my phone went, and it was Greg James from the Radio 1 Breakfast Show. And
I'll just pick up that name from the floor.
Yeah, clang. So I picked up. Hi, Greg. How you doing? Yeah. All right, Crofty. I'm with Ollie Behrman. He said. I said, "What are you?" And they were in the studio and having a chat on air, and they phoned me up. First question was, are you standing or sitting? I said, I'm standing at the moment, which Ollie got wrong. Anyway, we started having a chat, and I said to Craig, have you got a question for Ollie? I said, yeah, who's going to win this year? I thought that'd be the best question I could ask at that moment. I am, he said. So what do you know about your car that we don't then? So we had a bit of a laugh. The confidence of the young man, though.
Wow.
Absolutely fantastic.
Strong answer.
Very strong answer. And as he enters what will be his third year in Formula One, his second full season in Formula One, there's no doubt, I think, that he had an excellent year last year.
Without question. He was one of the stars last year, wasn't he? Multiple performances. Mexico springs to mind, that P4. What a drive that was. He really understood those cars, and he understood more and more how to extract performance over the course of a weekend as well, particularly sprint weekends.
Yeah.
He was great, hitting the ground running. I think he's one of these drivers that has a lot of natural ability to just feel the car under him. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can do this year. Whether he'll win the championship or not, Crofty, I don't know, but maybe one day.
You heard it here first, if he does. Back to the Aston Martin. That looks like a lot of cooling that's been opened up on the side of that Aston Martin.
It's it's the car that looks different to everything else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it does.
Most rake, the way I almost called it DRS. I didn't say it. I did the way the rear wing opens. Very different. You hardly see a slot gap between. It doesn't collapse down like the Alpine or the Audi, but it's almost like it goes completely reverse on itself. It's very, very bizarre. So comparing to the Mercedes there,
and it's not, its gap isn't as big as the Mercedes.
Nowhere near, but
or the Alpine that has no gap.
It's because it's falling back on itself even more. Very, very odd. So that's different. And then the rear bodywork seems to it's so tightly packaged that it makes the whole car look incredibly thin. And yeah, for me, the nose looks different as well. It's got a bit of a bulge in the middle, then goes more narrow towards the end.
Just if you look at the side of every other car, and I take you, it's completely different as we watch Lance Stroll into turn 1. Lock up.
That front right is so cold though. Look, what's he got, like some kind of sticker on the right front, and it's still shiny on the outside edge. So it hasn't been working much at all, and therefore cold, and then it's grabbed the inside front on turning.
But the worry for me there, and look, I'm no expert. We saw the side of the lock up from Lewis Hamilton, and that's been the theme of today. Cars locking up into that first corner. But look, it's this little bit of cooling, but not a lot, and the Ferrari barely any cooling on the side of the Mercedes. The Audi has got it.
A few fins there, yeah.
But the Aston Martin has a lot, which coupled with it's so tightly packaged, has Has Adrian Newey gone a bit extreme for the engine? Does it need just a little bit more respite from the temperatures that are going on?
Who knows? Or maybe it was all part of, maybe it was intended for the car to be like that. But it certainly looks tighter than most cars around that area. So yeah, it's the one. Just whenever you see it, it doesn't. If they were all painted black, you'd still definitely recognise that car as the Aston Martin.
Well, it's green for a start.
No, I said if they were all painted black.
Sorry.
If you had no reference of different colours, you'd spot it from quite a long way away.
Yeah.
That, oh, yeah, there's the Aston Martin. Just for me, the proportions are very different to other cars. Whether or not that is an Adrian Newey masterclass once again,
Well,
time will tell.
The rake is very Adrian, isn't it?
That's very Newey. Yeah.
If we were commentating on a fashion show catwalk, oh look, here comes the rake, Freddie Adrian. for the spring season. So Adrian, that is.
Yeah, more of a winter design than a summer design. Might need to open that up a little bit as the hotter temperatures come.
Undo a couple of buttons for the summer, but it's such a rake. Oh it's so Adrian. I might use that throughout the season. It's so Adrian.
Please don't.
Oh dear.
Right, what is Bortoletto up to here?
He's driving a Formula One car, Ant, to be honest, and we're 50 minutes into this session. This is Gabriel Bortoletto's second lap of this session.
Hence the 2 personal best sectors then. Feeds it into the final couple of corners.
Well done.
Turn 14 and there is 15. And once again, another car complaining a lot, getting on power onto that main straight. And Bortoletto, again, running the race prep, I would say, with those kind of lap times in the mid-39s. So Russell, 37s, 38s, Bortoletto, 39 at this stage, but yeah, very, very early on.
Right, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars on the track. So we're getting a bit more action out on the track, which is a blessed relief, I'm sure, to Bernie Collins, who has wandered her way from turn 12 towards turn 5. Come on in, Bernie.
Hello, Crofty. I have indeed wandered over here, and it is good to see these cars out on track, and hopefully they're going to stay on track, because normally what happens is when you throw down to me, everyone darts into the pit lane. But we're at this turn 5-6 section, very high-speed section of the track. It's one that actually, when I looked through some data from last year, you could see big differences across the 2 seasons. But the cars seem to have got on top of that this year, as Ollie Behrman, I think, is going to come through it. Particularly through this section, Ferrari and Racing Baldiv we've seen look very, very strong. We see Ollie Behrman now pushing quite hard through that corner, taking a lot of curb, carrying that on through, and then braking into that final turn 7. No lights flashing on that rear wing at all, so seem to be taking a lot more speed through this section than they were last week. We've got the McLaren here coming slowly, but the Racing Bulls looks very put together here. Looks very stable through that corners every lap that I've seen him come through. The car that's looked the slowest so far, I would say, is actually the Aston Martin, but one thing we noticed through this profile of track in particular is how much rake the Aston Martin's carrying. It's very down at the front compared to the rear. I think Ferrari coming now, this car looks very strong through this section as well. Hamilton able to really lean on that left corner in particular before that braking into the right. That looks very strong. Aston now, that's the first time we've seen them come through here pushing properly on that car, and that looks much, much stronger than the laps previously had done, where they were going particularly slowly through this section. But this section is one that gives me a lot of hope, actually. These cars do look particularly strong. They made a big improvement for last year. We see the Mercedes are actually pushing a little bit too hard, taking a little bit too much exit curb there. Drivers starting to push this section, pushing that exit curb as we see with Mercedes, pushing the braking for the entry to that turn 7. And this is one that the cars are starting to come to life in this second test, Crofty, so I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer.
I don't blame you. It's a fascinating and fabulous place to watch some Formula One cars if you get the chance. Thank you very much, Bernie. We are 54 minutes into this afternoon session. Race simulations are the order of the afternoon so far. Here's Lance Stroll to complete another lap. Moves up to 15th fastest, but not pushing in terms of low fuel, I wouldn't imagine, currently in that Aston Martin.
Yes, 38.1 for Stroll, fastest time that his teammate Alonso achieved earlier on. What was it?
Fernando Alonso's fastest time was a 1:36.5.
36.5, yeah. So yeah, I would imagine that was, it's got a little bit more fuel on board, older tyres at this stage, yeah, with only 6 laps on the board. There's a long way to go, and the track will be at its slowest right now as well. Things will speed up once again as the sun starts to set.
You know, we were talking race starts when we were on a little bit earlier, and if you weren't with us, I'm very sorry about that. Join us again tomorrow.
Sorry and disappointed.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't want to say that. There's room for improvement, and we're on for another 2 days, don't worry.
Yeah.
We were talking about race starts and turbo lag and whether it's dangerous or not. Valtteri Bottas was asked about this in the press conference, you know, the starting procedure. Yeah. It's definitely not more dangerous than before, said Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton said it's definitely not dangerous. Should probably take that connotation away. And Max Verstappen said you can always start from the pit lane if you feel unsafe. Well said, Max. Thank you very much.
Typical, classic Verstappen.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, it's so Max.
Oh no.
So Adrian, so Max. But it's a fair point. We were having our own little chat about this. That, you know, if there is a slight risk, what could you do to the starting procedure? And I don't know what you think about this, Anne, or not. But if you if the green flag was waved when all the cars are in place, and then one light comes on, which is a signal to the drivers that everyone's in place and raring to go, and then you can start to build the revs that you need, and you wait 5 seconds, say, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 lights, and it lights out and away we go in the random time that it is currently. Would that alleviate the problem and at least allow all 22 drivers to get the revs running high enough for long enough?
It could be, you know, there would be solutions out there, Crofty, I'm sure. Maybe that would help alleviate some of the issues. Just knowing when the start sequence was about to happen could be a good time for just to have as a barometer for the other teams, and something that will even up the fact that you're waiting for cars at the back of the grids to get going and start their start procedures as well. So it could be, but it wouldn't probably take away the fundamental problem of the battery state charge being at random levels as well, and that would be the problem.
Carlos Sainz completes another lap. George Russell, as I said, we think on a race simulation at this stage in the afternoon. Ruth Buscombe can confirm that for us.
I don't know about confirm, Crofty, that's a big old word. But if I was an engineer, I'd say infer, because it gives us all
just confirm it. You're not being an engineer today, Ruth Buscombe.
Okay,
if you say it, it's fact.
News. Breaking news from the pit lane. Mercedes are on yet another race sim. Now, what makes a race sim different from a high fuel run? A few things. One, a race sim is where we try as a Formula One team to complete as close to a full Grand Prix as possible. So tells that a Formula One team is on a race simulation. So that's starting from effectively the grid procedures. You're going to see a lot of out and ins, start laps, which is what George Russell did. You then see a gap, a deliberate gap, which is based on the timings for the actual Formula One Grand Prix, which is very important for things like the power unit engineers and the tyre engineers to adjust pressures and temperatures. Then we start the race simulation itself, obviously not on the grid at the end of the pit lane. Currently, we're on a hard C1 tyre out there. Now, the only thing that's different to a normal Formula One Grand Prix is as strategists, we are able to do split stints, so expect them to box rather soon.
Sorry, Ruth, we're just going to break away from that. George Russell's race simulation might come to a grinding halt if we get a red flag, as Lance Stroll has just spun off and ended up, and it looks like he's beached in the gravel. This just before turn 11, and yes, we have got a red flag, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest, because they're going to need to recover that Aston Martin. There you are on the outside of turn 11. And we didn't see the full extent. We kind of cut to it just as it was happening.
It's been a major lock-up, hasn't
Yeah.
it? What's happened there?
So he's applied the brakes. Have the brakes just locked in place?
Well, hopefully we'll see a replay of that, because that is... I was expecting just a single wheel lock-up. Right, let's have a watch and listen to this. Out of turn 10 all looks good. Oh, that's not driver error at all.
No.
It sounded like he lost drive, if anything, before he did something right. Did the gearbox break on downshifts?
It was on the reattachment, wasn't it, of the active aero. The problem started instantaneously. Now, whether it's coincidental or not, I don't know. But the minute the active aero reattached itself, then the car gets thrown offline.
Don't think it was. I don't.
But the noise, you're right, doesn't make me think that it's active aero.
But don't forget that the active aero is just a telltale sign that the driver's lifted off
Yes,
throttle
exactly.
or braking. So that's just the byproduct. But
I'd like to go back on board again if we can see that.
Now I know what I'm listening out for. It definitely sounded like there was an oscillation when he pressed the brake. It's the first downshift or second or third downshift, and it seemed to go into like a neutral, a kickback through the drivetrain. I would put money on drivetrain being the issue there, and like within the gearbox perhaps. Didn't sound like engine. It just sounded, and definitely not driver error.
The shift lights disappeared completely, all the way down to yellow. Talking of yellow, you've got those flashing lights on the wing mirrors. That's the new safety procedure from the FIA. When a car comes to a standstill, those lights will go on, and it is to help other drivers see cars in poor visibility, sometimes if they're facing the wrong way. Now you can see the rain light that's flashing away if the car is pointing in the direction of travel. If the car is spun round, then you've got no reference point for a driver coming onto the scene. So now you have, with those blinking, what look like indicator lights, but I promise you they were not there for the purposes of indication, just visibility.
It's a perfect display, actually, as to why the FIA have implemented that. You know, having drivers coming up towards turn 11, a high-speed corner, and a car way in the distance, but you see the yellow lights flashing, looks like a yellow flag, and that's definitely going to catch your attention, and you'll therefore know that it's a car sideways and not pointing in the right direction, so you know that there's a car in trouble basically in front.
Let's have a look, and we'll go on board again.
So it's either on the first or second downshift. Let's listen out again. Yeah, it's like, I know we slowed it down there, but it's just got, it had no drive.
No.
It's like it went into neutral as soon as he requested the first downshift.
Correct. Like I said, the lights, the shift lights just disappeared.
Yeah, that's not driver error. It just sounded odd the way that the way the revs dip down so much. You do get a little bit more rear locking with these cars. It's another area where you miss the MGUH. Yeah, he had no drive. It went into neutral. The revs just dropped right down, and literally the first shift he made, it locked the rears, and around it went. That's why it was such a high-speed spin. Completely not driver error there.
Oh
Strange
dear.
one.
That is not what Aston Martin could do with. They need mileage on the clock. They need to be pushing that engine as much as they can, and if it's lost drive there, that's a worrying diagnosis debrief coming from the Honda side of the garage, because they need to find out why that happened.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's paramount. Any kind of high-speed moment like that, that puts the driver off the circuit, you must find the cause of the problem straight away. What are we looking at here? The
Aston
aerodynamic
Martin
analysis
versus the McLaren.
Yes. Just looking at the rake. Oh yeah, look, really clear,
Yeah.
flipping between the two of them. Yes,
can
and
we
so
go
much
back to the
daylight.
Aston Martin, then go back to the McLaren? Because that's always the best way to make a comparison.
I mean, all cars are running some
There we
regular.
go.
Yeah, look at that. So much daylight underneath the Aston Martin. This is what we spotted earlier on, and you do need to do it when they're static, actually, like this with Alonso at the end of the pit lane. And Norris, yeah, it's quite clear, isn't it? Oh, a good undershot of the car there, Crofty, actually.
Oh, Adrian knew he is not going to enjoy this.
They never like these moments. They never like these moments where you can actually see the secret flaw of the cars.
I mean, we're not saying that the McLaren doesn't have a rake. It does, just not as extreme.
And then I think if you saw the Ferrari there as well, I think that's even lower than the McLaren. I'd say how they were running the car. When we saw the Flovis paint on it with Lewis at the wheel in the afternoon, that's where the Ferrari looked like it was the lowest one.
So it's the walk back.
Oh, look
There's
at
the
that.
Ferrari.
Look at that. You ask,
very
you
much.
get. Amazing.
You've got power.
We've got power up here, look. Yeah.
There's the walk back for Lance Stroll, back into the paddock once again. And no driver wants to take that stroll, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to trust the car under braking. It's one of the most important parts of the corner, Crofty, is just knowing what you're going to get when you hit that left foot on the brake pedal, and you hit it hard as well, don't forget. So you need the car to be there for you the whole way through into the braking zone. Every downshift, they need to be slick, they need to be in good sequence and not to upset the balance in any way. I mean, that's an extreme example of what can go wrong when you have too much rear locking. But I mean, to some degree, teams and drivers are complaining of this. It's a new phenomenon for this set of regulations. Having lost the MGUH, you would rely on that to do the blipping in between the downshifts, and it would speed up that or mitigate that inertia that you're battling with. And so that's another thing that the drivers and the teams are missing at this stage.
I hope Lance hasn't hurt his hand as well in that, because it was such a dramatic locking. Go back to, he's had hand issues, and he was just shaking his hand a little bit there as he was walking back to the paddock.
Yeah, obviously this is the race he almost missed.
Yeah.
Back in the day when he had injured his hand. Was it snowboarding? Mountain biking?
He was cycling.
Cycling, yeah.
And he had a crash and broke bones in both wrists, wasn't it?
Nasty,
came
complicated break, wasn't it?
Drove through the pain barrier, and one of his best drives, if not his best drive, I think, given the circumstances in Formula One.
I still can't believe he did that.
Phenomenal.
Your dad owns the team.
Yeah.
There was no pressure really to come back, and he forced himself back into the car. Those painful rehab sessions he had to do. It was one of those moments where, for whatever people think of Lance Stroll, I think it made them think again that race weekend and how he brought himself back from such an injury.
I think there is a public perception of Lance, and then there's the real Lance.
Yeah.
And they are very different. And look, sometimes, and I've said this to him as well, and to his dad actually, he doesn't help himself by not being very open with the media and giving people a chance to get to know him, as it were. Oscar Piastri in the turn one. Is going to snap a little bit on exit?
Yeah, it's a tricky corner through turn 2 and 3. But yeah, you could see he took a few bites at turn 1 as well, because it actually responded better than he was expecting.
But behind the scenes, there is a very different Lance Stroll.
You could say the same for every driver. Yeah. They're all different. Some you might think laugh and joke too much. Say someone like Daniel Ricciardo in the past, for example. But you get him in his motorhome and looking at the data and working with the engineers and the pressure that the guy feels and the passion that he goes about his work with, or went about his work with when he was a driver. And it's not that, in many ways, that facade that you see on the outside, and it's sometimes, or quite often, a defence mechanism for a driver, or any athlete.
I think he's quite a shy person, to be fair. And when you do take the time to get to know him, he's a very engaging person. We both have had many a conversation with Lance over the years.
And Oscar Piastri, running on board with him now, he's a great example of everyone's, oh, he's as cool as ice, he doesn't break a sweat, he never shouts, opens his mouth, and you never hear him angry of course he gets angry, of course he gets upset. It's just he's learned, his defense mechanism is to come across as calm as possible at all times, to be like the good old stiff upper lip Brit. Just never give away your emotion. I know he's Australian, but it's that analogy, isn't it? Stoic. He's so stoic, but it doesn't mean he doesn't feel emotion and get annoyed with events, and that's the intriguing thing about any sports person is they're not all the same, and they all have an ability to be a very different character when they're at work compared to away from what we see them do.
Back to the start procedure. Ryan Ellis sends a message talking about maybe solutions to it. Is it not part of the team and driver's job to fully charge the battery as best they can on the formation lap? Why provide another 10 seconds to rev and charge it up? I think we're trying to help everyone understand the new rules and regulations. Is it about charging the battery up, or is it about getting the revs high enough to reduce that turbo lag so you get away properly?
It's both of those things. Right. And that's the tricky part. It's both of those things combined. It's the management between being at the right state of charge, your battery, and having the turbo spooled up to the right, to its full amount. It's that marriage between the two. And that's the complexity of it all. And if you've got a smaller turbo, it spins up quicker.
Yep.
And that's why in good old competition spirit of Formula One, you'll have teams that have the smaller turbos. Nothing to see here. We're quite happy with the way the rules are. Thank you. Don't you dare go changing anything.
Well, so there's that issue. Then there's the fuel issue with the rumour being that some fuel might not be accredited yet, homologated yet, and it might be a case in Australia that it isn't properly, accredited.
You might have to explain the fuel actually to maybe new listeners and viewers.
What
this year,
Crofty?
You're the fuel man expert.
I don't know about that. All I know is we've gone from unleaded to sustainable fuels, so derived from advanced sustainable components, so non-food biomass, renewable feedstock that's non-biological origin, or municipal waste. Think manure, ladies and gentlemen, and we can make fuel out of it. So they've got to meet strict greenhouse gas emissions thresholds as well. A 3,000 megajoule per hour energy flow limit is in place. There's a new in-car monitoring system, and that gives the teams flexibility on how much fuel they need to carry or how big their fuel tank design needs to be. In fact, the fuel tank is actually smaller than it was last year. But what have we got? Fuel providers: Shell for Ferrari, BP for Audi, ExxonMobil for Racing Bulls and for Red Bull, Aramco for Aston Martin, and Petronas for the Mercedes-powered teams. I think I've covered them all. Cadillac as one has run Shell with the Ferrari engines. But the story, the rumour is that not all the fuel is accredited in time for Australia as yet, and Lewis Hamilton goes fourth fastest with a 1:34.5, and it might be that there is a race on to produce from one fuel supplier. Petronas is the story on this occasion, that they might not have the fuel as they want it come Australia, and they might need to find a solution to that. Now, if the story is, well, look, starting procedure, if we've got it right, why do we need to be charitable to make sure others can get it right? The same will be true, I'm sure, for the fuel issue, because there are those that have got it right that will not see in any spirits of gentlemanly conduct, as it were, that they should give any charity to Petronas, if this is the case, who haven't got their fuel right.
And it shouldn't surprise you at all, should it? In the quest of competition, that if you feel like you've done a better job than your competitors and it doesn't affect you, then you might potentially end up in a Indianapolis 2005 situation.
2005 is correct.
Yeah, we don't want to be talking about that race that day too much, but that's ultimately what can happen when a competitor feels like they've got the advantage and will not back down at all in terms of wanting to change the regulations to help their competitors.
It's a story that has about 18 days to play out, basically, and to see what happens. It has not been easy to put these sustainable fuels together. And whilst, yeah, you can scrape the waste off waste, and you can come up with something, you need some molecules within that to improve performance. And some fuel suppliers will think, no, we've done a really good job here. And we have put a lot of time and effort and money into getting the best fuel, the best sustainable fuel for this year. Why should we give away that advantage that we've earned by our own hard work? Watch this space for more, I think, on that particular story. I think it would be less of a story if as the rumours suggest, it wasn't Petronas that were having problems, because they are supplying 4 teams, and that's 8 cars. And there would still be a Grand Prix, even if you hadn't got those 8 cars on the grid. It's fewer than 12, I think,
yeah,
to make it invalid.
It's getting a bit desperate, isn't it, if that is the case, if the rumours are to be believed there on that one property. But you'd like to hope that the teams that haven't met homologation yet will get that, what do you say, 18 days? Yeah, time is getting tight. That's interesting, though, watching George Russell there, who continues his, what we believe, his race run, although he has just set his personal best there with a 34.588. It's great watching the rear rain lights. That's another thing that's changed this year.
Disco Steve's rear rain lights?
Yeah, but there's method to the madness. Not the group, the understanding of what's actually going on.
It's blinking madness it is.
So what you'll see is with Russell, when he was pushing on that last lap, the rear rain light, it flashed once, and Bernie talked about this earlier on. Rear rain light flashed once on the exit of turn 11, and then it flashed constantly like that, Piastri down in towards turn 1. So when it constantly flashes, that's more like we saw last year. That's what we used to call D-rate. That's now your super clip. End of the straight, you'll get the super clip, so it's the electric motor becoming engaged and sending energy to the battery.
Right.
And that's when you see the constant flash of the rain light. That single flash, like we just saw there, is when either a driver puts their foot down and they get less than 200 kilowatts of energy, or it can be when you start your ramp down of battery deployment.
Essentially, though, serving as a warning to cars behind that this car might be going a bit slower than you'd expect at this moment.
So you see here, out of turn 10, we were probably a little bit too late when we picked him up, but around this kind of time, he could be super clipping, so you'd see them constantly flash. On the exit of turn 11, if you decided, the single flash there decided to be under 200 kilowatts, it will flash immediately. And then there, constant flashing, well, a couple of times, they did a tiny bit of super clipping before turn 13. And then you'll see more of a super clip if you watch the back of the car before the final corner, perhaps. There we go, flashing light. So the super clip tends to happen at the end of straights. So we can read quite a lot into this. Exit this corner, you might get one single flash. There we go. So that's at the end of 350 deployment, and you've started the ramp down of energy deployment, and now he's lifted right back out of it. So, but you can start to pick up on who's doing what. So the rear lights will be monitored heavily by the drivers as well. They already did this in the past to see who was harvesting energy where at what point, and could they use that as a strategy to maybe overtake them.
So say I don't know, Carlos Sainz, say George Russell, because he's actually behind Oscar Piastri at the moment. Say George Russell's following Oscar during a race and he sees all those lights and we're like, right, I know where you're super clipping, I know where you're not getting full deployment, right, I'm gonna override with my boost what my Mercedes is doing right there. I'm going to do it right there because I know that you're slowing down. I mean, Oscar's led him past on this occasion. That gives you an opportunist moment to overtake. How vulnerable does it then make you, if you're George Russell, if you've gone and done that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a game of cat and mouse, and also predicting what your opponent's doing. If you're anticipating if you're the lead car, you've got someone right behind you, and if you're anticipating they're going to press the boost button to give them full deployment for as long as they hold it down for, you might well use yours in a defensive mechanism as well. But the car behind you doesn't really know whether you're about to do that as well as them or not at all. So that's where this kind of, the drivers will be playing this very high-speed strategic game of deployment tactics through the lap. And but remember, you've all got that finite amount of energy per lap, but you can use it how you want. There is an optimal way to use it, and the engine management system will take care of that itself. It will learn the best way of where to deploy the energy and where to harvest energy. And if you just drive as systematically as possible as the driver, the system will learn how you're driving and work around it like it's always done in the past. The system has always learned, since we've had hybrid engines, it's learned how the drivers drive and therefore where to deploy in the best ways. But it's just more impactful now, and you feel it more inside the car.
Say there's an incident where, say Lance Stroll's in the gravel at turn 11 as we're coming to it with Liam Lawson. Say Liam Lawson is battling on track, I don't know, with Nico Hülkenberg, for instance, yeah? And they've gone past the scene of Lance Stroll, so they're well away from the accident here, but they can see that car, that Aston Martin, is stuck in the gravel. And if I am Liam, if I'm Nico Hülkenberg's race engineer behind one car, we go, boost now, boost now, boost now. There's a safety car coming. Because you know, or a VSC, for instance, because you know that car needs recovering.
I know where you're going.
And you can do it and get the overtake done. Then the safety car appears, and there's no chance for Liam Lawson to respond because you can't overtake behind the safety car. And I think,
obviously, you wouldn't be doing it in yellow flags.
No
overtaking. But yeah,
like I say, when they've gone past the scene of the accident.
Absolutely, and all these things we have to be thinking about, and it should be part of your strategy going forward for this year. All those kind of moments. News
from the FIA earlier today. The F1 Commission met. I think it was at the hotel where you're staying this week. They were having an off-site F1 Commission meeting. If you'd have stayed at the hotel, you could have just listened in to what they were talking about. I'm glad you didn't, because I'd have missed you a lot.
You would have been lonely up here. That was a lot of talking.
Yeah, even for me. The teams, the power unit manufacturers, FIA, Formula One management, were all there working through all technical aspects ahead of the opening race of the season. Constructive discussion took place following initial feedback from the drivers arising from a survey instigated by the FIA. They were talking about car characteristics, energy, power unit, aerodynamics, overtaking, and racing tyres and mechanical grip. Positive feedback from the drivers was received on the reduced weight and smaller dimensions of the 2026 cars. The drivers agreed that the new car exhibited improved ride quality and stronger initial acceleration, which we've been talking about. Further evaluation and technical checks on energy management matters are going to be carried out in the next few days here in Bahrain. And it was agreed that no immediate major regulatory changes were required, given the initial evidence and feedback, which remains immature. That's not saying the drivers were immature, but they haven't had as many days as they want. And the premature change carried the risk of increased instability ahead of the first race. Now, there were constructive talks and proposals centred on the race start procedure during the commission meeting. So they were talking about race starts. As a result, further evaluation of updates to race systems and on-car management will be undertaken during this test, which is eminently sensible. If we're here for a test, let's test out maybe some different race systems, car management, etc., so that we can get it right for the first race. Now, there were also discussions about the possibility of increasing the sprint events up to 12 based on the demand for sprints from fans and promoters. We have 6 sprints this season.
The fans have spoken.
Will we have 12 in the future?
And they're good. I like it. It's and we shouldn't complain, the people that work in Formula 1. It is harder work for everyone, a sprint weekend. There's more competition, and that means it's a bigger workflow. But if it's helping the sport and the fans like it, well, that's enough said, really, isn't it? And I think Martin Brundle always says I would take the higher workload, but I would always take the fact that it's a race and a qualifying session rather than an FP2 session or FP3. If that's the alternative, I would always take the former. And so I'm well up for the sprint races. I really enjoy them, and I think this year particularly will be it'll be fascinating. I can't wait to see how the drivers tackle these new cars and regulations, and I think we've got some real treats to look forward to. I really do. I might be being a bit too optimistic about that, but I do think it'll be some action that we've never seen, some overtaking possibilities and places on the track we've never seen before.
Let's hope so. Let us hope so. Apologies if I suggested the pound unit manufacturers were at the F1 Commission. They weren't. That's teams and FIA and Formula One. But I'm sure their comments were represented.
It's great that the drivers they've got positive feedback from the cars, even though they've got less downforce, therefore less grip. Their backs aren't getting smashed to pieces from being hammered into the ground, chattering away down the main straights like they were in the previous gen of cars, and they're not as stiff as well. So higher ride heights, softer sprung cars, more compliance. That opens the door for clever things to be done mechanically with the roll stiffness of the car and the weight distribution and just the general balance mechanically of the car. It's just, you've got a bigger scope now, and that's the tunability of these cars mechanically it's opened that up, and you can gain performance that way as a team, and it is team. It should be teamwork. The drivers saying these shorter cars, lighter cars are better. Just to remind you of the dimension changes, so shorter wheelbase this year by 200 millimeters, down from 3.6 meters to 3.4 meters. That's the wheelbase come down, and you can really see it. The width has been reduced by 100 millimeters, down from 2 meters wide to 1.9 meters wide, and the front wing is 100 millimeters narrower, and again no wheel brows as well. And I think that whole frontal area is just cleaned up. I really like, just proportionally, I love the look of these cars.
On the look of these cars, where are we? MK Steve says, will teams get a penalty if they finish the race minus the bars board? Or are they able to pop on a new one in the same way as they do a nose? They look incredibly vulnerable. To be fair, there are a few things there that make me feel they'll do well to survive the whole race.
I know, it is one of the things I'm in full agreement. I think, yeah, you stick a wheel in there, and it's just in such
those
a
bits
precarious
on the side
place.
of the Mercedes, right there.
Very precarious place, but it's there. Its purpose is to stop the outwash, basically, around the front wheels. The wheels create such unwanted turbulence. It's the first thing, if you had an open rulebook, one of the first things you'd do is just cover the wheels. It plays havoc with the rest of the airflow around the car, but also, and more importantly, for the cars following. It does things to the air that no aerodynamicist can understand. The turbulence this creates, this moving object. It's why a golf ball has dimples in it. It's to try to simplify the airflow as it spins around and actually helps it to go further as well. But you can't do that to the tyres. You can't have dimples and you'd lose grip. But yeah, it's because of that rotation that causes this turbulence. And I do hope, I have a strong hope that these cars can follow each other closer this year and therefore create some more genuine racing.
On board here was Charles Leclerc from earlier today, the man with the fastest time of the day with a 1:33.739, set on a tyre, the prototype tyre.
Yeah. So yeah, just no graphic and no logos on the sidewalls there, just the black tyres. So yeah, working his way up towards turn 4. You see the revs dip down there, a little bit of super clipping before turn 4. Open the throttle back up, head towards turn 6. get to that curb on the right to help open up the left-hander. Flat out now through that part, down the hill, downhill braking into turn 8. Sneak a bit of curb on the left, get close to the curb on the right, and avoid using too much of that heavily serrated curb on the left. Open up turn 9, brake, gently does it, then pinch the car at the apex. It understeered for him a little bit too much there. Would have been wanting a bit more rotation and for the car to pivot just a little bit more at the apex. Down towards turn 11, feed the car in. The car goes light momentarily. Quite a different balance to that of last year, which is a bit more understeer. Flat through turn 12, but it's the 0 kilowatt zone before turn 13. Oh, and the front gave up mid-corner. Once again, medium speed that one is at turn 13. Then you're heading down towards the final couple of corners, 14, 15. Brake at the 100-meter board, down into third or second gear, depending on how you tackle it. And then pick up the power very gently because you've got everything under your right foot, full deployment as you come down the main straight again. So driving-wise, there's still a lot to these cars, and that's without the driver having to think about where and how much power they're going to have when they put their foot down, depending on which part of the track they're at. So they're having to work for this. Make no mistake about that. They're not easy to drive. They're way harder to drive than last year's cars because they move around a lot more. You've got unpredictable power coming your way quite often through the lap that you have to try to memorize. And getting close to perfection in these cars, or as close as you can, is almost an impossible challenge.
There's Oscar Piastri with the third best time of the day, separated from his teammate by 15 one-thousandths of a second, 15 milliseconds, if you wish to use that, and about 3/10 behind Charles Leclerc. Kimi Antonelli in the 1:34.1s, and then a gap of about 4/10 back to Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. I suppose when the lights take effect. Oh, Lance Stroll's
made it back.
Has made it back, which is good. They can start to work on that. Man with rucksack at back, or on his back,
demonstrating very selflessly, Crofty, what extra weight will do to your energy management as you're running with a heavy rucksack on. Yeah, well done, sir. For those of you interested, by the way, because I've seen a lot of and heard a lot of comparisons being made to lap times around this track, which hasn't changed since last year, many years gone by, in fact. So they're comparing the lap times quite naturally, I suppose, to that of last year. And you know, they're a lot slower. They're around 5 seconds slower, and some fans might feel a bit disappointed in that. But the better reference for me is to compare it to the start of the regulations from the last generation, so 2022, where the Red Bull was the dominant car. They came here in winter testing and set a best time at the end, so the final day of winter testing, of a 31.7.
Yeah, 31.
So 1 minute 31.7 on the soft tyre, which we haven't seen here.
Race going on here.
Good race going on.
Ollie Bearman against Oscar Piastri.
So just bear that in mind, just bear those lap times in mind. So we've seen low 33s here so far, just comparing it to the start, and that's the fair test, the start at this time of year to the 2022 set of regulations. So that's when it was in its infancy, as we are right now.
Oh, Ollie's let him past. I was hoping that was going to carry on for a little while longer, to be honest, and we'll see if Oscar Piastri could pick his way past.
Did he let him past?
Well, he was looking in his mirrors.
Or did Piastri use his boost button to get past?
Well,
Who knows?
I would suggest he let him pass because he was looking in his mirrors. He stayed over to the right-hand side, and Oscar just was there.
And to be fair, it looks like... I know he hasn't backed off because he's still got his active aero open. But, you know, we could be seeing passes at that part of the circuit made to look as simple as possible, as easy as possible, but could be done on the boost button. So we will have, hopefully, graphics that will show when drivers are pressing the boost and things like that. Now, let's have a watch from the onboard. This will be interesting. So yeah, so Bearman, the rain light flashing through that sequence of corners. So that means that Piastri had a bit of a look into turn 8 because he's thinking, okay, you're harvesting a bit of energy there in a strange place. That's just the single flash. So he started, and then he's starting to maybe super clip a little bit in towards turn 9 and 10. So he's in a proper race mode, is Behrman. So now what's going to happen here? Let's listen to the gears. Now he's up into 8th gear here, Crofty. 8th gear is rare to be using in towards turn 11. I do believe he pressed the boost button.
You
there.
do?
I do think so, because usually you hang on for 7th gear into that corner.
Right.
You wouldn't shift up into 8th. We've seen it all last week as well on a normal race run. So that could be our first demonstration. It'd be interesting to ask him later on if anyone has the chance to interview. At that moment where you overtook the Haas, was it done on the boost button? Did you give it full deployment, full beans for that one moment, got you up into 8th gear, and you arrived at that corner a bit faster than you would have done usually without pressing, relying on the boost?
And there was definitely lots of flashing lights on the exits of that corner from Oscar Piastri. There wasn't just one little light to say, well, I'm not getting the deployment. There was a big...
What would be good if we go back on board with him now that is he still out there? If he's now past him.
Yes, he is.
So if he's still out there, if we could pick him back up and that very part of track on the onboard and see, does he reach 8th gear on a standard lap or not, it would answer our question.
Bottas with his active aero blasting his way down the main straight. It's really easy to see the active aero at the rear. Not as easy, certainly not with half of the Cadillac.
It looks like only half the front wings doing the active aero bit on that car.
I'm not going to go anywhere, critical of that livery, but it does look like that front wing is broken at all times.
I'm just waiting for you for the first time in commentary where the light's a bit low. So you go, oh no, and the front wing, half of it's missing on the Cadillac.
Exactly. So I'll have a word with Pat Simmons. He'll get it changed, put a sticker on there for me, not a problem. It's you're kind of looking out for both.
A sticker just saying, not broken.
Not broken, Crofty. It's fine.
Still there. I'm still hanging on.
What do you make of the half and half livery? I don't mind it. In all honesty, I don't mind it. It's something different. We'll get used to it.
It's not the first time it's been done. Reminds me of the original BAR, if I'm honest.
I was gonna
which
say,
a lot of people out there, listeners that maybe aren't even that young anymore, depressingly, won't remember. Yeah, I remember that livery well, and it does remind me of that car.
Talking of feeling old, something Karun Chandok mentioned last year.
Oh, he's ancient.
Well, he is ancient, absolutely, in many ways. That nobody under the age of 18 has been alive off Ferrari have won a world championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. It's true.
That's the sad part. It is true. We can remember it.
Not very well.
But there will be people watching this telecast that won't have been around. And eventually that's got to change. It really has.
But it's great to see Cadillac here. There was a lot of will it, won't it happen? And I'm so glad that they made it. It was worth the fight, wasn't it? And
did you
11th team on the grid.
Did you apply for a job with Cadillac?
Did I apply? No.
Oh, right. Okay, so you were one of the 143,000 people. Oh, no, you weren't one of the 143,000 people that applied for a job with Cadillac.
143,000 people
applied for a job with this team, of which
and
they hired just over 500.
And I was going to say, and they were just the drivers.
Yeah. That's why I asked the question.
And that's why we needed an 11th team.
Need a 111th
it's
team.
Great for the driver market, yeah.
Can you imagine talking to people within the team, got to the stage where we're like, no, close the applications now. There's too many people. 143,000 people wanted to be a part of the Cadillac program.
Well, wasn't it one employee a week they were taking on at one time?
People had to wear name badges.
Yeah, yeah. It's but you know what? It's good for the industry, and I'm happy that they're here. So it's and let's see their progress. Obviously a huge manufacturer. They've been around in the world of sports cars for a long, long time. and they win. They have won some very prestigious races in that world, and so it's great to see them here. And I felt like always it was a natural progression for them.
Time to talk Isaac Hadjar and Red Bull, and I've got some news, ladies and gentlemen, coming up in about a minute and a half. Some breaking news here from the circuit for you this afternoon. But I said I'd wait until 22 to do that, because I've actually had the story confirmed. Isaac Hadjar out on track with the Red Bull.
Is that the breaking news?
It is a breaking news. That's not the breaking news. We can see that. Isaac Hadjar, how many laps? Only 26 today.
Ouch.
I didn't think we'd seen the Red Bull for quite some time. So I think they've been working through a number of issues that started with one thing and then led on to a whole load of other associated, connected or otherwise issues, and they've lost a heap of track time today.
He wasn't using straight mode there down towards turn 11.
Well, I wonder if they're just testing through, they're just testing the system, or just doing an installation lap before they come back into the garage. I mean, the time would suggest that it's an installation lap before they come back into the garage, make a few alterations, and then get back out again. Right, from the FIA, here's a statement. The FIA had an e-vote centred on a proposed change to the assessment of the power unit compression ratio in running condition. So you may or may not be aware of the compression ratio story that Toto Wolff said he was confident it would all get resolved before Australia, and it looks like it has. So the FIA and the power unit manufacturers have collaboratively developed a method to quantify how the compression ratio changes from ambient to operating conditions. Following validation of this approach, a proposal has been submitted whereby from the 1st of August 2026, this season, compliance with a compression ratio limit must be demonstrated not only at ambient conditions, but also at a representative operating temperature of 130 degrees. The vote has been submitted to the power unit manufacturers, and its outcome is expected within the next 10 days and will be communicated in due course. So as with all Formula One regulatory changes, any amendment remains subject to final approval by the FIA World Motorsport Council. So, compression ratio, 16 to 1, isn't it? And the story is that Mercedes, it can go to 18 to 1 with changes within the chamber. I am not an expert on compression ratio changes at all, but by going to 18 to 1, that gives you more bang for your buck, so to speak. And Mercedes say, look, we have, demonstrated, we have complied with all the requirements because it is a, static at ambient conditions test, and ours passes all the regulations. And other manufacturers would have said, well, yeah, but what about when it's operating? That's the whole crux of this matter. So a vote will be taken within the next 10 days to see if that submission, that change will go through, which will then be ratified by the World Motorsport Council. So the engine will have to be, the compression ratio will have to be 16:1 at a temperature of 130 degrees.
I don't know why that regulation wasn't in place already, to be honest.
Well, I think that the FIA within the rules reserve the right to change the method of testing on anything. Think back to flexi wings and how,
it's a great example.
Load testing.
Yeah, flexi wings is a great example, isn't it? I mean, it got to the point where you could even see it moving, and I was there on the Sky Pad showing everyone it moving, but it passed the tests. So, and then you'd have somebody like Christian Horner saying it passes the test, totally legal, and it was totally legal for those tests. So then they had to change the methodology of how they test it, and then we saw changes. I mean, they still flex, of course, but maybe not as much or to the same extent they used to. So I think if that's what's been going on with some teams up and down the grid, then you're building something to a regulation, and it passes tests, and then if the rule changes, you pass that test as well. It's just a game of who can pass the test, isn't
exactly.
it? Really, that's what it is. And Lewis Hamilton back out there on his set of prototype Pirellis, chucks the car into turn 1, Squeeze the throttle, trust that the rear will stick as you go through turn 2 and up the hill now, up towards turn 4. And then feed it in, a bit of curb usage on the left-hand side. And whoa, look at that, using all the track and more on the exit of turn 4.
He's pushing on this lap.
He is definitely pushing, not far off his best Sector 1 and the best Sector 1 of his set by his teammate Charles Leclerc.
Same tyre compound as
yeah.
Charles Leclerc as well.
No, he's really pushing this lap. It looks like he's enjoying it, and actually this is the most at home I've seen Lewis look in a Ferrari for quite some time, actually. It still hadn't clicked, I didn't think, last week through the test here, and even towards the end of last year in Abu Dhabi, that strange spin he had in free practice before turn 9, or going into turn 9, it looks like he's getting stuck in here, and the body language of the car looks like he's enjoying it a bit more.
Yeah, it's on the edge.
Yeah, right on the edge, moving around. It's how Hamilton likes a car to behave.
Active aero goes back to the raised position. I'll find a better way to say that by the start of the season, as Hamilton moves now to the line. As the lap went on, he lost a little bit more time in comparison to his teammate. It was a couple of tenths down through the first 2 sectors. He stays 5th fastest with a 1:34.2 there, which was his best time so far.
What I like about these cars now, though, Croft, is that when the driver does get a bit sideways, I mean, he lost a lot of time here, obviously, didn't he, on the exit at turn 4? It was too much. That's what we're going to look at here. Just ran a bit wide, and yeah, just you pick up that dust and it stays with you through turn 6, and you lose a bit of performance through that one. And you can actually see the left-hand shoulder of the left rear tyre and the front as well. As you turn into turn 6, it remembers that. You've still got the dusty tyre, and it's not the best way to approach that corner, so you lose even more time. It punishes you again in a way for going off earlier. But what I like about these cars is that to go fast, you kind of have to move them around and play with it, and that's something that last year, it just, for people watching on the outside, it looked like they were on rails. It looked easy until it all went wrong, and then suddenly the car was in the barrier, and it made the driver look like they're incapable of driving suddenly. Whereas now you see it actually unfolding as the corner goes, as they go through the corner, and it's faster to kind of drive it with a bit of body language in the car, it moving around, and that's really cool. I like that.
Right, Bernie Collins, where are you? Are you at Haas?
I am indeed, Crofty. I'm down here at Haas, and I just wanted to bring you a little bit of tested knowledge. We all talk so much about these cars running extra sensors. It's learning for the team, learning for the drivers. Ollie Behrman, you can see out on the right-hand side of the car. But what I wanted to show you, there's a lot of work going on around the engine, is hopefully you can see on the brake drum. So the brake drum being the carbon piece of material around the brake disc, sort of a solid piece which is keeping the hot air in there, and you can see 2 blue little stickers, hopefully. Now those little stickers are temperature stickers. They're put on there, and what they do is they record the maximum temperature that sticker sees. So you can see 2 on the front of the brake drum, there's some further back on the axle, there's some even in the brake reservoir, in the front of the bulkhead of the chassis. So there's little temperature stickers all over this car to try and explore what temperature different components are getting to. Just be quiet as Lewis goes past me. Try and explore what temperature different components are getting to. And this is learning for all of the engineers and the mechanics working around this car to make sure that carbon or any of these components aren't being overheated. But when we talk about adding extra sensors to these cars, this is one really clear example of the type of sensors that people are adding.
Thanks, Bernie. Thank you very much indeed. Bernie Collins down in the pit lane, lending us her years of expertise and knowledge, and also driving the hire car this week as well.
Is she the driver?
We decided this morning that she was designated driver and I was designated driving tunes.
Oh.
So I was in charge of music, she was in charge of driving, Nigel in the back was in charge of listening, and you were lucky that you were in another hotel.
She's got a tough job then, battling your music choice while she's trying to navigate the streets of Bahrain. Yeah.
No, I gave it a proper mix
She's
this morning.
She's done a great job getting you here with that massive distraction.
In the fog.
In the fog, yeah.
Yeah.
She had it all stacked up against her.
Yeah, there was fog this morning. There will be darkness as we head back to the hotel this evening, and the lights are on. We're taking effect soon.
Look at the wheels on this racing balls.
There's four of them.
This highlights, but look at the covers. So, as my son said, they look like Lego wheels.
They do a little bit.
Especially
I
when
like
you
'em, though.
see it from the inside. I like the colour. So it's another change in regulations this year that you can cover the spokes of the wheels and be a bit more creative actually as well. So it's you see different wheel designs between the teams. There's a brand new set of tyres there, the medium compound on that racing balls. So let's see if this is going to be a push lap and what they have to do on their warm-up lap as well.
Yeah.
So Lawson goes through turn 4, full concentration down at Williams to Carlos Sainz. Sainz is 7th fastest for what it's worth at this stage, 1.6 seconds off. Instead of the prototype tyre, which seemed to be pretty quick.
Yeah, a softer compound tyre, perhaps, on the prototype. I'm sorry, I have no details on that prototype tyre. I'll try and get some for you if they're going to be used for the rest of the week. A couple of the regular F1 snappers getting their shots at the end of the pit lane. As away then goes Carlos Sainz to join Isaac Hadjar, Liam Lawson and Gabriel Bortoletto as the 4 drivers currently on track. And those tyres might have been sat in the tyre blankets and have got all nice and cosy, but he still needs a little bit of temperature and heat into them before he gets going.
There we go, yeah, Lawson weaving around just before probably opening up for a fast lap. Let's see what this rain light does on the exit.
Doesn't do anything,
Did you hear the acceleration?
Yes.
So the straight mode didn't open until later on, so that's your telltale sign that he was hanging on to his state of charge of the battery before sending it down that main straight. So he is definitely on a push lap. Whether or not he's activated overtake mode as well, or whether it is active.
He could do that later in the lap, can't he? He doesn't have to do that down that main straight.
No, you would do it straight away.
You would?
Yeah, you'd get it active straight away for this whole lap because you'd get your extra energy allowance to regen through the lap as well, of 9 megajoules instead of the 8.5.
Right.
And so then you obviously can use that through the lap as well. You can use whatever you can harvest. You're just limited by the harvest amount, which is 8.5 megajoules.
So if out of that final corner we don't see a rain light flashing in any way, they're on a push lap. Or a qualifying lap.
Or actually you could look at the straight mode as well, engage the active aero, engage in that. You can look at those 2 things. So, and then but the rate of acceleration out of the by the pit lane entry was the other, that's what you're looking for. So now through turn 12, you can see how much more speed he's able to carry through there. Another personal best sector for Lawson. 1.5 seconds down now at this stage. On the C3 tyre though, don't forget the fastest time set on that prototype of Leclerc. Now down towards the final break. You see how much dive there is in the car. The front going lower as he gets into the corner. Just uses maybe a little bit too much curb on the exit there, but nice to see a faster lap time there from the Racing Bulls, and pops himself just behind Albon's Williams.
So he goes 9th fastest. Carlos Sainz is making his way through 9 and into 10, and also on a push lap himself.
That looked good through 10, didn't it? Nice, neat and tidy.
Yeah, smooth as well. Good acceleration out of that corner. Active aero is active, slammed shut as he makes his way into turn 11.
Off through 11.
Wide.
Yeah, a little bit wide. You know what? He got on that curb. It picked up a bit of front end, a bit of understeer, and then it snapped with oversteer as well. He's carried on pushing, but the time's gone.
What are you feeling in the car when that active aero slams shut? What do you feel as a driver? I mean, not as extreme as a parachute opening, for instance, but you're going to feel something, aren't you?
Well,
Because
you're on the brakes at that point,
Yeah.
or you're lifting coasting. Don't forget. So you are decelerating massively anyway. So even if you just lift off in one of these cars at high speed, you're pulling almost a G of deceleration just from lifting off the pedal. So that's how much drag there is when you haven't got the straight mode active. But when you hit the brake pedal, obviously you're up to your kind of 5G, 5.5G into turn 1 here. And that happens in unison. As soon as you lift off the accelerator or press the brake, it's the straight mode will deactivate like it did at this point there. And he turned in, just understeered. Oh, I got a little bit greedy on the throttle. We were quite a low down shot from the offboard. This tells it better. It looked to me like he got on the curb before the snap of oversteer from that angle. It's too hard to see, but actually the oversteer took him onto the curb.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a shame. He was on a good run there.
That lap would have bit to the dust as he hit the dust.
And the good thing is, like, at this stage, Crofty, if it was a qualifying lap and you had 30 seconds remaining on the clock, so not enough to do a whole complete, you could still put your battery to 100% and go again with these regulations at that point on the lap.
Okay, so as long as you've got to the line in time to start, because you've gone 4 wheels off the track in that instance.
But in the old regulations, that would have been it done.
Yeah. That's what we were talking about just a little bit earlier for those that are just joining us now, and to watch out for that in qualifying as well, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers might make a similar error and be told by their team that don't abandon, go again. You've got your deployment, you can do another lap, so don't give up just yet, which means as well that cars might need to be fueled. With the potential to do that, cars might need to be fueled for a couple of laps, just in case.
On some
in the early stages. Piastri has gone fastest overall through the first sector. So there's a few really going for it out there at the moment.
Yeah, so the sun's starting to set, and lap times will naturally start to get faster, and the teams know that, so they're using this opportunity to get some new tyres on and faster lap times and focus more towards quali runs, lower fuel and new tyres.
Track temperatures dropped actually by 9 degrees from the start of this session. Piastri absolutely flying here.
That's a great lap.
1:33.669 was the fastest lap of Bahrain Test 1, set on the final day by Kimi Antonelli. This, I think, might be the fastest lap of the test so far, as Oscar Piastri opens up the active aero, crosses the line, as smooth as you like, 1:33.469, so it goes a couple of tenths faster than Kimi Antonelli did on day 3 of the first test on the C3 tyre, which I think is a favourite tyre really for all the teams, and we'll see the fastest times on that. But yeah, it did look neat and it did look pretty nice.
Yeah, it's the closest thing.
McLaren laying a benchmark down, isn't it?
Closest thing I've seen compared to last year's cars around this track that I've seen for the whole way through today. So yeah, it looked neat, tidy, in control, pushing right to the limit, sometimes over the limit. I think it's how you have to drive these cars. But always the car, it looked purposeful, it looked well balanced, well set up, and it's nice to see that lap.
Valtteri Bottas have put in a personal best on this lap. I think in the first sector.
Oh, what's happened down at turn 6?
He lost a bit of time in the middle sector.
Oh, just wasn't confident at the front end as he turned into turn 7, and then had this lock up in 8. So that's where the biggest chunk of time was lost. But yeah, 7, he was quite tentative. It's almost like he carried a bit too much speed in 6 and then compromised 7 a little bit too much and didn't trust the car fully in that corner. But yeah, that's where you lose at least 2 or 3 tenths in that kind of error.
There's your fastest time of the day then. It wasn't the fastest final sector. That's still Kimi Antonelli with the fastest final sector, but it was good enough to put in a 1:33.469, and it was over those first couple of sectors to Charles Leclerc. So that could be tyre performance. that's just cost him the chance of the fastest final sector, where he's been pushing hard in the first 2/3 of the lap. I actually think the tyres actually seem to be holding up really well. I'm not seeing a huge amount of marbles on either side of the track.
I think the teams now, they know this track so well.
Yeah.
They know what it can potentially do to your tyres, so the drivers know how to drive it. They know where they can or can't push and how they need to nurse their tyres. I think if a brand new team of people started running an F1 car here on these tyres with drivers that had never driven it before, I think you'd get into trouble pretty sharp.
Yeah.
And pretty quickly you'd be graining your tyres and ripping through them like no tomorrow. But yeah, they're well equipped now to combat this track, and it is a challenge to drive on this very abrasive surface. And here's a replay. We're going to see the whole lap, but yeah, let's have a look anyway and enjoy this one. Down into turn 1. Nice, with a good amount of turning. Met the apex well. Through turn 2. Tiny slide, like I said, you have to be on it in these cars. You have to allow a little bit of movement. Use a bit of extra track before turning into turn 4. Took that in 3rd gear, right up to the curb edge. No gravel that time. Use a curb in turn 6 to help open up 7, exactly what I was saying with the Bottas lap we watched before. Brake nice and early into turn 8. And he's a little bit wide when being super picky, and lost the rear a little bit on the exit.
Look how quickly he was up into 5th gear and then 6th gear on that little crest.
Yeah, exactly. The cars will accelerate very rapidly when you've got the energy there to use. So 7th gear, now will definitely be in 8th gear, as we saw earlier on this lap. And then turn 11, the understeer. It's a nice, similar kind of balance to what Sainz had, but he was more on top of the snap that came his way later through the corner. Turn 12, lots of touching of the ground there, the car bouncing around. 13 looked good. This is where we had him on the off-board, didn't we, before the final corner. How does this look from the on-board? A little bit of super clip going on there before committing to 14. Oh, and that drift. See, this is what I'm talking about. You just saw how he was just drifting the rear of the car before closing the lap. It was a really nice, like I said, you're never going to get the perfect lap in one of these cars, especially these early stages. No, they're so difficult to drive with this lack of grip, but he did the best that I've seen so far in that regard. So yeah, hats off to Oscar Piastri. It's really enjoyable to watch that one.
And as you can see, his boss is absolutely over the moon, dead chuffed, and pleased as punch.
Ecstatic.
Oh, you can just see, can't you?
Elated.
That is the happiest stare he's given the monitors throughout this entire day. I'm off to have a chat with Andrea Stella, I do believe. And as the sun begins to sink into the sky, Bernie Collins is down at Ferrari.
Well, I was going to go to Ferrari, Crofty, but I took a little wander. I was like, as I was going there, I went to Red Bull. I stopped by Red Bull on my way by, and you can see the car had been quite taken apart a few minutes ago. The rear engine cover was off, the front sort of bonnet section was off. You can see mechanics working all around it. But I think what they're doing currently is they're getting this car ready for a long run. And one of the telltale signs from that is you can see them adding bodywork tape, taping up all the panels around the car to get the best aero surface, a bit of polishing going on that rear engine cover now, trying to get this car in the absolute best condition before hopefully Isaac Hadjar takes it out for a bit of a long run later on. But what I was going to show you, if we just wander quickly down towards Ferrari. Ferrari, as we know, currently P2 in the timesheets. Looks like quite a good test for them. They've been pretty reliable on track and setting very good lap times. We believe on the C3 tyre so far. Charles Leclerc, you know, getting laps in, Lewis Hamilton this afternoon. But now, look at the story at Ferrari. What can I show you? Well, there's not a lot to show. These boards have been put up in front of the Ferrari. I tried to get a little peek in, tried to do my best, Ted, get a little peek in through the banner, and the car's up on high stands. So that seems to indicate more work than what they would be planning to do on this Ferrari. Perhaps something happened in the last run that we didn't quite see, but the Ferrari, not at this moment, looking as strong as it would just based on the timesheets. And if you look around behind the other side, the pit wall looking pretty empty now as well. And that's always a telltale sign that the engineers are in that garage trying to work out what's gone wrong, trying to have a chat with their drivers and work out what the remainder of the run plan will be for this afternoon session to try and get the most out of this delay that they're currently experiencing. But not an expected delay, I would say, for Ferrari. This is unexpected. Whatever's going on behind here, hopefully can get this car back out with Lewis Hamilton in it. But at that, I will hand it back up to the commentary box, now with Alex and Julian.
Hello everyone, we've had a change in the commentary box. Thank you very much to David Croft and Anthony Davidson for talking us through the opening 2 hours of the second session of the day, and thanks to Bernie Collins for the update down in the pit lane. Screens are up at Ferrari, screens are down at Red Bull. Red Bull who lost a lot of time earlier on with a fluid leak, but then extended to other parts of the car and problems chasing problems. Typical testing stuff on day one of test 2, where the track temperature is 29 degrees, the air temperature is 24. As the graphic is telling. Alex Jakes alongside me once again, Jolyon Palmer. Jolyon, how's your lunch break been?
It's been lovely, thank you, Alex. I've had a good wander through the paddock and spoken to a couple of drivers, one of which was Franco Colapinto's teammate, Pierre Gasly, who I really enjoy speaking to the drivers this year more than ever, because these cars are so different to drive, and every time you're learning something different that they're really struggling with or that they're really enjoying with the cars. And yeah, Alpine generally are feeling okay with life. First year back with Mercedes power units is a big thing for them, and they're working hard on getting that relationship all smooth before Melbourne and the start of the season. But yeah, just hearing from Pierre how tricky these cars are, particularly in the braking phase. We've seen a lot of lockups, but particularly the inconsistencies of speeds coming into corners makes life very, very difficult. So yeah, nice lunch and some nice chats.
Also joining us for this final stint of the day, I'm delighted to say, Lawrence Barretto up in the commentary box. How are you, sir?
Oh, what a treat to join you boys for the final couple of hours of pre-season testing. And firstly, thanks for joining me here in Bahrain. I know you guys had a little bit of a holiday. Jolyon, you in Barbados. I know, Jakes, you were working hard.
Yeah, I was in Biggin Hill, which I think is the opposite of Barbados, if I'm honest.
But no, yeah, thanks very much for joining me. It's been a busy kind of day in the paddock, just trying to find out some information.
I was charging the batteries. Excuse the pun, Lawrence.
Well, we've set the bar low, haven't we, for the remaining time? But yeah,
I love that Lawrence joins us for the looming power hour of the day as well. I love
the
this
first reference to power hour.
Yeah, it's the sun setting, the track temp's starting to come down, and this is when you start to see more representative running. If teams want to focus again on quali sims, there's not much point in doing it around here in the heat of the day. The tyres don't last that well, and when we come here in the race, it's under the lights. The temperature's down a little bit and gives you a slightly different feeling in the car. So I'm hoping that we'll see some more performance running from Sam out there.
Well, we were a little bit starved of this last week, obviously, because the first week, all the teams were saying, no, we're working on reliability, we're working on understanding car setup. So maybe this is the first opportunity at this time of day for us to start to see some performance runs, start to maybe work some of those packages harder, like Ferrari bringing that new wing behind the exhaust to their car, trying to chase more downforce, chase more stability. Maybe this is the moment we're going to start to see more of a pecking order start to emerge.
George Russell in the car this afternoon. Is he going to give us a first glimpse of some performance? I don't think he is on this lap. He's on 6-lap-old C3s, racking up the miles, but looking competitive again for Mercedes. You know what? All the drivers are kind of wide-eyed when they talk about the power delivery. And we talk about the clipping and the harvesting, but when you're talking about what the feeling is like sitting in one of these cars, taking off from a corner, they are like, this is bonkers. And when you jump on board with the cars, especially coming out of this corner here, Crofty and Ant were talking about it on Piastri's top lap. When you jump on board, they are pulling up shifts quicker than you'll ever see. Up all the way through. the early range of gears, and they are just literally just drilling that upshift paddle because the power is coming so quickly for them. And they're feeling that in the cockpit. These are, you know, the guys that are used to driving the fastest cars in the world. And to see them just feeling a buzz of acceleration is not something that you get it all the time, especially with the more experienced campaigners.
Drivers getting used to the new rules and regulations for this year. And the differences it delivers as we approach the golden hour. Get into slightly cooler conditions that allow you to push if you would be so interested. Fastest time of the day so far, Oscar Piastri, some 33 laps currently in the pit. Charles Leclerc ran earlier today in the morning session. George Russell comes over the line. He's now got 37 laps on the board. Lando Norris running earlier did 54. Kimi Antonelli running earlier did 69. Lewis Hamilton out there at the moment for Ferrari in the second session of the day. 24 laps so far for him. Carlos Sainz, as you saw him trail over the line, has done a personal best of the session so far with a 1:35.1. That's the completion of his 27th lap of the day. Franco Colapinto taking over the Alpine in the afternoon. 28 laps for him. And Alex Albon with 55 laps on the board earlier on. Liam Lawson's in the car this afternoon, 39 laps, and he has just made his way through the first sector of the racetrack. Gasly did 61 earlier on. Hadjar, tough stuff for Hadjar, if you consider that he needs all the mileage possible. Meant to be in the car all day, but he's been limited to only 28 laps behind the wheel of the Red Bull. Esteban Ocon running earlier did 65. Gabriel Bortoleto running in the afternoon, 27 laps for him. Fernando Alonso running in the morning did 28 laps. Problem reported as well. And the main headline so far today is that in this session is that his teammate Lance Stroll spinning off at turn 11, applying the brakes. Car went round, and that was the big moment into the gravel, which has been the main incident of the testing day so far. Hulkenberg earlier on did 49 laps. Arvid Lindblad 75, getting all the mileage in for the rookie in the field. Behrman is on 25 for the afternoon. Stroll had 7 laps before spinning off. Perez did 24 in the morning. Bottas has done 6 in the afternoon. The only driver sitting out today, 4-time world champion Max Verstappen, who was joining you, Lawrence Barretto, in the press conference that you were marshalling, you were conducting earlier on. Nice, easy task at this time of year. How did you find the mood from the drivers?
I'd say the mood was pretty chippy, to be honest. I thought Lewis was in very high spirits. I know last week he didn't come across as too pleased with how things were going in terms of what they were learning at pre-season testing, but today he seemed like there was a lot more hope in his voice. I think it was his ambition of what is possible, and Ferrari haven't really shown a lot of what they might deliver this year, and I think they've gone under the radar a little bit. I think we've talked a lot about Mercedes, we've talked a lot about Red Bull and that power unit that's been so reliable. We haven't talked so much about Ferrari, who quietly been plugging away, getting the laps on the board. I think Lewis did 150 or so on that final day in pre-season testing last week. So potentially, after those 4 days of between tests of having a bit of data deep dives and understanding what package they've got, maybe Ferrari are feeling a little bit more confident, or allowing themselves to think more about the performance elements of it. As I said, they brought a new update to today, a wing that they want to just test to try and gather more downforce, more stability. The idea is they'll bring more updates this week to try and nail down their race 1 spec that they want to take to Australia. This was always the plan, I think, for Ferrari. Bring a Spec A car to their shakedown that they did at Maranello, to Barcelona shakedown, learn about the cars, these very new cars. Obviously, we've talked a lot about today about how there's so much to learn, and then they want to add performance gradually when they've got a good understanding of it. And so far, so good. I'd say this is one of the smoother pre-season testings for Ferrari.
It's very smooth so far, isn't it? So again, speaking to people in the paddock, there's a lot of people saying they could be the team to beat. Mercedes generally seems to be the favourite still, and there's a feeling that they're holding something back. But you speak to other people and they say Ferrari, the power unit is very reliable, the car looks good, they're adding new parts, finding more downforce, and some people think that they are absolutely at least in the fight with Mercedes out front, and we shouldn't overlook them at this stage. One thing I'm interested to see is how Lewis gets on in the final couple of hours here. So Charles did a run earlier on and went top of the times until Oscar's just done his lap not long ago. And he did about 4 or 5 runs of low fuel simulation and coming through the pits and just basically deployment laps. Looking at what Lewis has done so far, he has done 4 or 5 runs of that, are very, very similar to that which Charles did earlier on. And he's done 24 laps total, got down to a respectable lap time that's in the ballpark. Has he got any more to come, or are they now looking at putting fuel in the car and then doing what Leclerc did, which was long running, basically? So I'm interested to see basically if Lewis can get a little bit closer with another run, or if that's him on the lower fuel today, and he'll now echo Charles' runs on the high fuel, which will tell us another story.
Oscar Piastri currently fastest. He is the driver in your picture. 3rd place in the World Championship last year, 7 wins, and a contender all the way through, including into the final round of the season, taking over the McLaren for the afternoon. Lando Norris logging 54 laps earlier on. Running the Mercedes power unit as Piastri out to cross the line once again. Into one of the 4 straight zones around this racetrack, and Piastri pushing on into the first turn. Let's see what pace he's got behind the wheel.
New set of boots here as well, so it looked aggressive into the first corner, didn't it? Building the speed. Cars like rocket ships on corner entry. Active aero staying open right to the brake zone at turn 4, so this is definitely a deployment lap here for Piastri. See how he goes in the higher speed. So he's thereabouts with his previous lap. Change of direction, looking tidy. This is where Ant was saying he was a little wide with understeer. This time he's managing to find some oversteer towards the exit of the corner, but you're always going to be limited with the power on the exit there, especially up the hill. There goes the wing, active aero, front and rear. And very soon we'll see them slam shut, and he'll send it in towards turn 11. Quick corner. And they don't look like they're harvesting so much in the high speed there either, do they, at this stage? Now we're heading down towards peak lap times.
Piastri about to complete the lap. No improvement for his earlier effort, but in the ballpark. His way around turns 14 and 15 onto the main straight, one of 4 straight zones around the racetrack, and he comes over the line for a 1:33.755, his best so far today, a 1:33.469. 36 laps now on the board. Let's send it downstairs to Bernie Collins down in the pit lane.
Yes, indeed, down in the pit lane, and I'm going to try to say this as carefully as I can, but everyone rushing to get out for power hour. That's quite difficult for me to say in my accent, but there is a rush on here at Aston. We've seen Lance Stroll have that off in the car earlier. There's been a lot of repair work, particularly in the bodywork, even around the roll hood, but now you can see pretty much everyone in the garage in a rush to try and get that car out as the clock ticks away on day 1 of the testing. And as we all know, the telltale sign is that the pit wall is getting busier. More and more engineers adding themselves onto that pit wall, ready to get this car out of the garage. No sign of Lance just yet, but expect to see the Aston back on track very soon.
They need it, don't they? 7 laps on the board for Stroll before his spin. So something interesting about the spin. It looked a strange one. A big rear lock as he came in towards turn 11. And I was actually watching that with Pierre as it happened, and straight away he said that looks like the active aero hasn't shut. So a little bit like how Jack Doohan crashed the Alpine last year in Suzuka. The active aero, some drivers, if not all, are having to manually shut it now because there's slightly more lag. So there was a feeling that maybe as Lance hit the brakes, he just didn't have any rear load, which is why he had a sudden rear lock and basically just locked the rear axle solid. Then the engine stalls and cuts out, and off he goes to the gravel. but maybe it was just not in deactivating the active aero. And obviously Aston Martin are so low on miles right now, they're still figuring things out, and it's all part of the pain of starting things late, potentially. Maybe there's another issue in there, but it was an interesting thought anyway, that we spoke about active aero as being sort of like an automated, always coming on in the straights process. We'll see it again with Valtteri here coming out of the next corner. So we come into turn 9 and 10, difficult braking turn. The Cadillac's through there. Now he's going to pop open the rear wing and the front wing with active aero. So straight mode, SM, pops that open. He'll now carry that down towards turn 11. This is where Lance went off. And it shuts momentarily before he hits the brakes. Now I think with the Stroll moment, it shuts a little bit later, and it may well be that was just active aero carried to the braking zone, and so he didn't have any rear load on the car, hits the brakes hard, trying to get that regen on the rear axle as well, and it's too much, and round he goes. So I'm sure Aston Martin will have an answer very quickly from that live telemetry from the car, but it was just an interesting insight really from the drivers that are learning all this stuff as they go.
Getting used to something, as you say, starting to take it almost for granted immediately. 4 zones around the racetrack, but it is still currently a physical button push for the drivers, and they have that option. And the Aston Martin will be joining the session very soon. That's the thing about testing, you can put it on the back of the truck and have it driven back to your garage, fix it and send it out again. 8 hours split across 4 2-hour sessions, and the lunch break in between. Hadjar out on the racetrack, trying to make up for a bit of lost time today with a fluid leak on the car earlier on.
35 laps for Aston so far. Hadjar desperately also needing to be out there, and as you can say, is improving on a C3. Still squirming. Turn 11 is difficult with the higher speed, and then the power suddenly coming in as you've got plenty of left-hand lock going on through that long exit. The drivers are also starting to get greedy with the curbs, and I think part of the caution with the curbs, I was wondering if it was a downforce reduction, which is there and everyone is feeling, but I think maybe there's an element of teams not being too flush with spares as well. So the more you rattle over the curbs, the more you can damage parts on the car, and now we're going through the testing week into the final week, and just more than 2 days to go. I think we're starting to see drivers starting to crawl over those curves again, more akin to yesteryear.
I think just on the subject of spares, I think teams have taken vastly different approaches to this, because they will have brought different levels of cars to Barcelona, to here to Bahrain, to what they're going to have in Australia. If you know you're going to keep upgrading your car through that phase of pre-season, you're not going to have a ton of spares at every phase, because you don't want to waste money on building up those spares if they're going to become outdated very quickly. So I think a team like McLaren, who brought the car that they're going to have in Australia to Barcelona, through Bahrain and to Australia, the likelihood is they can kind of maybe have a little bit more on the spare side of things, whereas a team like Ferrari, who came in with a Spec A car, or indeed Audi, who came in with a very basic car and then brought a new spec here in the first week of Bahrain, I think they'll have to take a different approach, and they won't be able to have as many spare parts for the car they've got at the minute.
Been a low mileage day across the board, actually, with I mean, some teams are flying. Mercedes are, I think, the first team to clear 100 laps in the day, with Antonelli 69 this morning. George Russell's been really busy out there, already racking up 45. So in terms of mileage, great day for Mercedes. You can see there on the left-hand side, Lindblad did a huge amount earlier on as well, 75 individually, and Lawson has cleared 100 as well for Racing Bulls. So a good effort from them. But on the other side, you've got Cadillac, 34 laps, so one fewer than Aston Martin at the moment, and Hadjar, the only driver in the Red Bull, 31 laps as well. So whilst reliability's generally been good, this has been a day where there's a few teams struggling to make it really count.
Hadjar's definitely been the Red Bull driver that's had the lower end of the reliability through pre-season testing, and it's tough for him because he was fortunate, like all drivers who switched teams this year, they've got 3 tests to get used to their new team if they've moved. So it's been difficult for him to be lacking mileage, but equally, when I talked to him late last week, he was still confident. Like, that's what I love about Isaac Hadjar, is that the level of confidence in his own ability to go and get the job done, no matter what is going on around him, is pretty damn impressive.
What did you expect from... did you have other drivers that early on, like let's say Liam Lawson this time last year, had a difficult pre-season with Red Bull? Did you feel very quickly his dejection or his concern when you're interviewing him, even in pre-season?
I think when you go through pre-season in the second Red Bull seat, I think given what's happened to that drivers in that seat over the years, I think it makes sense to maybe, even if you are uber confident, maybe just rein it in a tiny bit. I'm not even saying like let's just not go in and say no. I'm just saying be careful about it.
Got an update down at Mercedes from Bernie.
Yes, indeed. Hopefully you can see pictures of the car just coming into the pit stop now. A live pit stop for Mercedes, and then a launch, and then they stop in the pit lane. Now that does not happen on a race weekend. On a race weekend, if the car leaves the pit box at all, it has to complete another lap on track. So this is something specific to testing. It's only in testing that they're allowed to do a practice pit stop, practice launching out of the box, and then stop further down the pit lane. So I've seen this a few times today, and this is again one of the nice things that we see in testing that we don't see over race weekend. But I just wanted to explain to people at home some of the little differences that we see. And what it allows teams to do is it allows teams to get in much more practice of a pit stop than they would over a race weekend, because they don't have to then go out on track and complete another pit stop.
It's a very important detail. Appreciate you showing us, Bernie. Down in the pit lane for us at Mercedes there. Before, we were discussing the confidence levels of those heading to the second Red Bull seat, which has been a carousel in modern times. And Liam Lawson not getting a long shot at it, but then rebuilding. The team's update halfway through the year. They brought the update of the Racing Bulls in Austria, transformed his confidence behind the wheel and his season, got a good result there, bettered it in Baku as well, won himself another year with the team with the contract extension he was told about in Qatar. Isaac Hadjar doesn't really tend to leave you guessing about the mood he is in. Always enjoyed it all the way up to the ladder from Formula 3 to Formula 2 and now to Formula 1. Podium finisher as well in his rookie season, no mean feat. But yeah, there's wearing your heart on your sleeve, and there's Isaac telling you directly. But it is underpinned by a huge amount of confidence because he knows how well he did to get that promotion.
Absolutely. One thing I'd like to mention is I'd like to play poker against Isaac Hadjar, because he's terrible at trying to hide when he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
Obviously his future for this season, it's very obvious that it's interviews that he did that he kind of knew something that we all didn't publicly.
Yeah.
But no, I think the way that he's handled himself throughout that first campaign at Racing Bulls was very strong. I think the way that he's handled himself across pre-season and then into this test. Laurent Mekies was talking in the press conference earlier and only had good words to say about the way that he's embedded himself in the team, kind of get stuck into the job, responded to the lack of running that he's had, really got stuck in the engineering meetings. And then Alan Permain, who's his old boss, was also in that presser and was saying how happy he was that he's kind of made that step up and how confident he is that he's going to get the job done at Red Bull.
You like to play poker, or you would like to play poker?
I would like to play poker.
I was thinking, what a big shot
reveal.
Barretto is.
Yeah.
Playing poker with the high stakes.
Let's go on board with Isaac Hadjar, that we've been discussing. This is making his way through turn 13. Slipstream, second helping of Slipstream, and down the inside past the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas.
He hit the second helping, didn't he? So Activero engaged for both, but then he did need another dose of Slipstream there. I wonder if he just had a better deployment there, Bottas, early on. You could then see the rear light blink as he started harvesting down the straight as well, and that then gave Hadjar the chance to come down the inside. Could stay pretty close at the final corner. I mean, what are we comparing against though? It's a Bottas whose best lap so far, the last lap was a 41.7. Hadjar's capable of doing a sort of 5 seconds lap quicker. So it's not apples with apples, let's say, but for what it's worth, he can stay quite close.
Gabriel Bortoletto, the next driver to get past Valtteri Bottas on track. Drivers all taking this opportunity to line up, see what the disturbed air in the car in front feels like. They're acting their way through, using the tools that they have at their disposal. Including overtake mode for 2026, single detection line around the circuit. You're within 1 second of the car in front, so you have the whole lap in which to use it.
Do you guys want a quick fire question?
Go on.
How many drivers has Max Verstappen dispatched in that second seat between Daniel Ricciardo and Isaac Hadjar coming down? First answer wins.
Oh, good question. Got Jake C counting on fingers here.
It's quick fire, guys.
5.
Correct. Alex Jakes is the winner. That's 5 in 7 years. So we had Gasly, Albon, Perez, Lawson, Tsunoda. And that is how tough it is to go up in that second Red Bull seat. And we all know that. But when you actually remember all of those that have come and been dispatched back down or out, that's why you wonder, maybe Hadjar might come in with being a little bit contrite early on. But he's not that sort of guy, is he? He's confident. He had a great year last year. He's already been a Formula 1 podium visitor. And there are plenty of people saying that this is a good year to go up against Max with a brand new car. There's now a new line of thinking that maybe this sort of car might suit Max even more than the last cars, which is going to be not great news for this guy. We will see how it pans out, but this has not been a good final full day in the car for him, has it? Day one is nearly the best. The track rubbers in, and it gets to be the real sweet spot on the final day, Friday. But missing so many laps here is not going to be his ideal prep for Melbourne.
Mr. Bortoletto to the inside of turn number 1, getting past the Cadillac of Valtteri Bottas. And he joined it further around the lap. This is the look of the rear wing with the active aero in the straight zone. Pull out of the slipstream. Have a look to the right. There's Valtteri back on the grid. The snazzy new crash helmet. Back ahead for some lovely clear air.
So they can overtake the Cadillac. Bottas is on his long run and is very much on a fully conventional start of the race long run thing here for Cadillac. So those that have passed him, they are not on, certainly not on start of the race long runs if they are on longer runs. So we've seen a couple of overtakes though, which is nice. But yeah, Bottas very slow out there, racking up the laps for Cadillac, which is why you can see 7 seconds off the pace of Piastri at the top.
Franco Colapinto in your picture now. Starting his first full season for the Alpine team after coming in halfway through last year. Hoping to find himself. There were a couple of races where he's out qualifying here, but they were firmly at the back for a large part of the season. New power unit we've spoken about. Team getting up and running with their relationship with Mercedes. Pinto running this afternoon, and now under the floodlights. So you see that rear wing element of the Alpine, similar to what we've seen with Audi. We get to the end of the straight, haul on the brakes. This familiar camera angle. See how much of the track he's using through here. Using a lot of the track through turn 1 earlier on. Now we're climbing the hill to turn number 4. Franco Colapinto trying and hoping he's going to be able to return to the points as quickly as possible. It's been a while, and he's yet to score with the Alpine team based in Enstone in the UK.
I'm intrigued to see what Franco can do this year. He's got a pre-season under his belt now to settle in. He's not going to just be parachuted in. We obviously saw him have that really encouraging stint with Williams when he got his first opportunity. He scored points. Then obviously when he moved over to Alpine, he didn't quite deliver the expectation that we were expecting from him. And then Alpine have backed him. You know, Fabio Briatore's backed him to stay in the car for this year. And I guess in many ways there can be no excuses now. He's got a clear pre-season behind him. This team put all of their resources on the 2026 car over very, very early last year. One of the first teams to do so. So I think there's a big expectation from the Instone-based squad as to what they can deliver. They got the Mercedes power unit in the back of the car, widely believed to be the class leader in the championship still for this year. So I'm intrigued to see whether or not, you know, those phases like you mentioned, Jake, see where he was able to match Pierre, you know, in qualifying and the race, whether or not he can do that more consistently this year.
And for higher stakes positions, will be the hope. The driver bumped up to Williams mid-season and then joining Alpine mid-season last year. So, as you say, Lawrence, enjoying a full pre-season, a full build-up with a little bit more experience as well, and hoping to carry that into the opening races of the campaign. Bit of flow-viz out there for Carlos Sainz in the Williams. Williams, who missed potential 3 days of running in the shakedown earlier on this year, now find themselves making up for lost time. They certainly did that in the first official test last week, racking up a huge amount of laps. Sainz has doused one side of the car with the flow viz, trying to get as much of a read as possible as Williams tried to make up for lost time. Well, they did last week. Significant running last week. James Vowles is one of the team principals, and you're turned up late. How dare he? For a Lawrence Barretto press conference, which is not how it was sold, but that's what we're calling it in the commentary box.
To be fair to him, he was bang on time. He just didn't come in the right entrance to the press conference room. So by the time he got in, he was maybe a smidgen late. But by the time the clock ran down, he was in position and ready to go. But I asked him about kind of the way that Williams have managed to fight back, essentially, from not having a car ready to go for Barcelona shakedown, and that they managed to catch up more than 400 laps last week. They topped the mileage charts. You know, fair play to them for doing that job, running the car reliably, kind of trying to get back up and play catch-up essentially to the rest of the field. But it's still unclear really where they are kind of racking up or stacking up in terms of pure performance. They've got a lot of work to do, I think, to understand this car, and that's why the data they would have got from those 422 odd laps that they managed last week and whatever they can get this week will be super important. But I think the feeling within the paddock and inside the team is that they do have a lot of work to do, and maybe they're not as far forward as they would have hoped to have been, having been one of those teams. I mentioned Alpine earlier, but they were one of those teams that, you know, put a lot on 2026, and there are a lot of expectation on what they could deliver. So look, it's a long season. It's going to be a development race. I think we're going to see different teams be strong at different points of the year. So it's obviously not all over now, and there's a long way to go. But I do think Williams are definitely one of the teams that are still playing catch up.
Carlos Sainz continuing on his way. Driver currently 8th in the classification. This is the end of that 33 of his running in this second session of the day. And the Active Aero, following the Active Aero. And
what a nice display of two different styles of Active Aero, though. The top flap drop down and a whopping lock up. Say goodbye to that apex for Colapinto. And that's what you need to do this year. Put a bit of pressure on, get them looking in the mirrors, and whoop, through you can slide. So minimizing errors is going to be such a big thing this year. It's obviously about extracting performance, but we are seeing a lot of lockups. And again, speaking to some of the drivers, I've mentioned already the difficulty in finding your brake point consistently lap on lap, because you're arriving at a different speed lap on lap. So let's have a look at this with Franco. So I think his deployment is just carried on longer. I wonder if he's using overtake there to just keep that going towards the braking zone. We can see this on board with Carlos. So you can actually see Franco checking out at this stage. So Carlos is harvesting energy. Franco's still able to keep the K in towards the braking zone, and it just means he's arriving quicker than he has done on the previous laps. What that means is you hit the brakes and you're like, whoa, no, I needed to be about 20 meters earlier on the brakes, and hence you slam the pedal, you have a lock up, and it's too little too late. But it's drivers having the foresight to know how fast they are approaching the corners is such a challenge, and they are very keen to point out this is Bahrain. You could do that here at turn 1. first race is in Melbourne. When you're at turn 1, but more importantly turn 3, you have a big braking zone. You have grass and gravel on the outside. There are plenty of street circuits we go to this year. If you're missing brake points, you're going to just hit the wall. And so they have to find consistency of deployment, or they're going to basically have to be quite cautious on their braking, because you can do that in Bahrain sometimes, and it's on in the race run when you're plenty of laps in. Just have one lap where you're in a bit hot, it's going to catch you out. It could be lap 22 of a 57-lap Grand Prix. It only has to happen once, and you're in the wall in a Monaco, or you're in the gravel in Melbourne. So that is, I think, going to be a key area of interest, particularly in race trim. Trying to compute how fast you're basically going into the corners and just feel it out. And if in doubt, be cautious. Could lead to some interesting racecraft, some big lunges for anyone being cautious. You can catch them off guard.
Let's hope so. Let's hope for plenty of last of the late breakers. Lance Stroll, as you can see, back out there. And you could hear there, just waiting as late as possible before starting the lap.
Sounds like a safety car restart. Going very, very slow. Make sure you're on low partial throttle, get the tyres prepped, and then release it. And now the battery starts deploying. You don't want the battery deploying off the final corner, which you could get away with in the last set of regulations. Now you want to take it all the way to the line, like a safety car restart from P1.
We'll lock up for Lance at turn 4. Backing out of it. Continuing on. Yeah, that's a huge change. Waiting, rather than gunning it out of the final corner, waiting until the last possible moment. Still have deployment from the battery all the way to the end of the lap. But importantly for Aston Martin, Stroll back out there after his earlier spin into the gravel at turn 11.
So that is going to be something new for everyone. We'll very quickly adjust to it, but there's not many motorsport series without a safety car that you're driving steadily to the line as quickly as possible, but without draining any battery, and then you go. So that's going to be a key difference. Another bit of racing. Inside of turn 10, Piastri on Sainz.
Be a big risk at this stage.
That's always the elbows out first lap,
so
somewhere in the
good.
midfield, particularly in F2. You'll always see someone do that. It's going to be tricky into 11. We're going to have to wait for the longer straights. Let's see. We saw earlier on, I can't remember who, someone put a little cheeky one into turn 13 here. Carlos will back off probably to save some battery. Do we go for it? Do we do the cheeky? No, we don't. We wait. But come on, we've got to have 2 levels of active aero now. That's going to happen, but now we've got to see if Oscar can... Surely he's going to pull it off here. You do it in the final corner, though, you're going to get gazumped back over the line. So, OK, now it's going to be the one.
Full build-up for this moment across the line. Active aero for both of them. Rear wing, front wing, McLaren, Williams and Oscar Piastri moving ahead.
Sealed on the brakes.
Biding his time there. Full overtaking simulation.
But has he got the grunt coming out of turn 3 here? By the way, a really tricky corner now for everyone. Turns 2 and 3, trying to get through there. And he does. He's going to hold on to that. I thought Sainz opened up his straight line mode a little bit earlier than Piastri coming out of the final turn. We're not going to see it on board, but we are going to see a sumptuous move. So the straight line mode comes so early, and I think he did open it, but maybe Oscar was just slightly slower to press the button. Deployment, but he didn't have to drain the whole thing, which is why he stayed ahead up towards turn 4.
Lance Stroll changing things on the steering wheel and the lock up into 4.
So he's playing around with his modes, isn't he? On a fast lap that was him launching it from the start finish, and then he's drifted out onto the curb. He's already braking on the absolute limit, and he has that strange outside front lock, and then he finds the classic inside front lock. You can see the flat spot already on that set of tyres, so this isn't going to be the marvellous run either for Aston Martin. Do you want another quiz question?
Go on.
It's about that time, isn't it?
It's nearly time.
I was going to just chuck them in every so often. when was the last time Max Verstappen was beaten by a teammate when he finished the race? Guess is welcome.
Good question. Good
Tricky one to know.
Are we talking in? Is it? Can you give us a hint?
It was it was a while ago. It was a classically good race for his teammate at the time. A known good one.
This is Baku.
It is a Baku.
It's Perez in Baku.
It is.
No way.
23.
What?
2023 Perez Baku.
Wow.
Was that the weekend when Perez was fighting for his career and he did really well and then he had that accident late on?
Well, no, he wouldn't have beaten him if he had the accident.
Oh, yeah,
that was 2024.
Of course.
But that would have been another one, but he crashed into Carlos right at the end, didn't he? So Checo is always a master of Baku. Maybe something that Cadillac are looking forward to later on in the year. Get in there and he'll somehow scavenge a podium.
The Baku spec Cadillac has a lot riding on it, given his unbelievable ability around that circuit.
But that is the man that Isaac Hadjar was up against this year. And their own team boss said to you earlier on that Max, whilst he's maybe not a massive fan of this set of regulations, might become the best at them given his skill set.
We watched the presser earlier on, right? We were loyal. We
And the
watched.
questions were amazing.
They really were well asked, you have to say. Tom Clarkson's trying to get his TV right now. Piastri over the line, 1:39.3 for reference. His quality sim earlier on was 1:33.4.
Hamilton's been a long time in the garage. So the clock's ticking down. He's been in there for well over an hour now. So I was wondering if he had another low fuel run in him to see if he could get anything more out of that Ferrari, but I'm wondering if he's got anything more in him.
Screens up at Ferrari, continuing to work on the car. No sign of Hamilton down there, adjustments being made. Our Combox in a pretty brilliant position, you have to say, to stare in over the top of the screens. But they continue to work on the Ferrari.
Back end of the car as well, so yeah, he's not going anywhere in a hurry, that is for sure.
Enjoying the quiz questions, by the way. Play along at home. We'll pause and give you a guessing time as well. That is madness. So when both Red Bulls are finishing, the last time he was beaten was back in 2023.
But it isn't really Isaac Hadjar's job to beat Max, is it? It's just to be a stronger driver in the second seat, no?
But what a negative way to start a year. I think you're right, because Max is an absolutely prodigious talent. Maybe the greatest driver we've ever seen, as the stats back up. So Red Bull and Isaac, they are not thinking that he needs to beat Max, but if he's close, that's good. I don't remember too many times where drivers have changed teams and thought, if I can just get close to my teammate, that's good. Your teammate is classically the only guy in the same car as you. That's the benchmark, but I think that's just the level that Max is. And for Hadjar, he just needs a good final run of this testing day, and then he'll get another half day and learn as much as possible to get closer. But yeah, the team, they're not expecting him to go and usurp the four-time champ. They had the best season of his career even last year without winning the title.
Hadjar across the line to log another lap. Personal best, Sector 1, Sector 3 for Hadjar. He does his personal best of the day, completing lap number 40. It's a 34.3 for him. He is 7th in the classification. That includes both the morning and afternoon running.
Fresh set of C3s that was for Hadjar. Same compound as Piastri, who set his time a good while ago now, pretty much an hour ago. Don't be any future. You don't need me to tell you that.
The classic testing caveat. We'll tell you the times, but they might not
you know
be
what?
the most.
You say that all the time, but when you sit through enough testing days, you do build up a picture of when the Ferrari's quick, maybe it's Leclerc that looks like he's the quicker. For the last however many years, when the Red Bull's quick, it's Verstappen. When you have Checo or you have Liam in the car, they're good, but they're not necessarily frighteningly good. And I mean, you could say sometimes it was the same with Hamilton in the days of older Mercedes. you think, oh, you know, maybe the rest of the field are close, but then Lewis gets in the car and just does something extra special behind the wheel. You pick up a feeling of which driver within a certain team looks like they're more settled. It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the case for the year or even the very next race, because maybe some drivers are particularly good around Bahrain, or they're dialed in here, and Melbourne is so different, and the season is long, as Carlos Sainz showed last year. Struggled for the first, he barely had points for 2/3 of it, did he? And then came alive, and we saw what he was capable of. But for the start of the season, at least, you can get a bit of a picture.
Right, an hour and 11 minutes to go at the end of this first day of Test 2 here in Bahrain. 3 days of running, with the 8 hours a day interrupted by the 1 hour lunch break. Carlos Sainz continuing out there with the Floviz. He's gone back out on the same set of tyres once again. And our ever popular new vantage point. You know, ever since Liam Lawson went out there earlier on, that's all anyone wants to be, with that view of the drag strip, and then on the right, the support race pit lane, on the left, Formula 1 cars heading down to turn 11. I think his dad was up there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz Sr. was up there watching on.
Ever observant, taking it all in. See, I saw Liam there earlier on, we mentioned it. I was thinking, I'm going to head there tomorrow, I'm going to have an exclusive, unbelievable vantage point. But tomorrow it's going to be ticketed entry.
Yeah, you're going to be queuing. You're going to be queuing. You show the tabard and say, no, I'm doing a trackside hit. That's going to make no difference at all.
Just going to have to get there early doors, Julian. Put some tensor barriers up.
Yeah.
Mark out your area.
Yeah, in for 8 AM. Stake it out.
Yeah. Check out the conditions nice and early. You'd have been up in the fog if you were there at 8 AM this morning. Thought we were going to have a delayed start when we came in.
Yeah, very sandy earlier on. Pit stop practice for Williams. Just waiting. Bit of a conversation going on. And no pull away like we saw for many earlier on in the session. He'll be pushed back to the garage. Sainz, who... There's a lot going on in Qatar at the back end of the year. Big championship battle going on. Huge moment at the end. And Lando Norris was able to climb a place. And Carlos Sainz being on the podium in Qatar. One of the strangest dry weather results that we've had in years. Just unbelievable performance. Executed it perfectly. And given their start to this campaign, they'll be delighted that they bagged the podiums that he was able to.
He was consistently on it at the end of last year. He really, when he came alive, he was there consistently. Baku, tremendous. Austin, very strong. Really found his form. He probably could have done with the rules not changing. Williams just chipping away at that group ahead and carrying on that trend that he was on, because he was almost becoming a quasi front runner.
Very strange contrast between Albon's start of the campaign and Sainz's finish. Put it together, and they had a great year split across the team on their way to 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. Alex Albon not scoring a point after a very strong run in the Italian Grand Prix. In Grand Prix, that is. So he'll be looking to put that right as soon as possible. His good friend George Russell, tipped by many as the championship favourite. When everyone gets asked that question at the moment, there's a lot going around. They're tipping George Russell, which I think is payback for what he did to Lando last year, when he immediately put it upon his shoulders that he was the championship favourite at the F1 75 launch event.
I was just thinking that, how Lando really didn't like talking about that favourites tag, did he? But it was a lot more obvious than it is right now for trying to call anyone the favourite. They've still got all the games, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and then Mercedes, all looking at each other. There's a feeling still that Mercedes are holding something back, which is why Russell is the favourite. But yeah, I guess what goes around comes around sometimes. I should start calling people the favourite.
Putting the pressure upon their shoulders. Yeah, we'll have have a guess of the order as we get towards the end of day 3, building up to the season opener in Melbourne. A team that are desperate for all the running they can get. In your picture right now, Lance Stroll making headlines in the first official test of the year by saying they were 4 seconds off the pace. Those comments, very rare to hear a driver quantify it like that, but he was open and honest with the assembled media at Bahrain International, and they have been playing catch-up ever since. He comes over the line with a 36.6. P16 for him earlier on. Fernando Alonso was in P15. Stroll with that spin into the gravel, losing the rear of the car at turn 11 earlier on, but recovered to the team garage, repaired and back out there as well. He has now done 14 laps in this second session of the day. Norris, it's not quite what Aston Martin would have expected when they secured the marquee signing of Adrian Newey, and then the shock news at the end of last year that he was going to be promoted to team principal.
No, absolutely not. I think when they rebranded that team in 2021, there was ambitions within that 5-year period to be fighting towards the front. There seems to be a bit of a revision of what that target is, and now looking at a 10-year project because so much has changed. They've got the works Honda power unit in the back of the car this year for the first time. They've never had their own works power unit supplier. They're doing their own gearbox for the first time, their own rear suspension for the first time. Obviously, Aramco and like all teams got advanced sustainable fuel in the car as well. Then you've got Adrian Newey, who only joined the team last March, so there's been a lot of personnel changes, and they're growing quickly and they're growing all the time. And when you're trying to gel all of those factors together and to try and compete against the very best in Formula One, it's no easy feat. And look, Adrian will need time to kind of, in his role as team principal, to get the operation working in the way that he wants to do it. But obviously, as Fernando Alonso keeps reminding us, he's got form. He's won championships with Williams, he's won championships with McLaren, he's won championships with Red Bull. So there's no reason why at some point he won't come good. I just think that at the moment, coming in sort of in March last year, started putting the car in the wind tunnel that next month, which was around 4 months after everyone else. They were on the back foot from the very beginning. He's tried to squeeze what he could out of the car that he's produced for this year, taking it to Barcelona, but that was pushing the envelope and they weren't car ready, like Mike Crack admitted earlier today in the press conference. So they're pushing the limits and they're trying what they can, but they've been up against it really since that very moment.
So it's a 10-year plan. From when?
2021, when they rebranded as Aston Martin.
So we've got 5 more years. So Fernando would be 50.
I never said Fernando's still going to be there.
What else is he going to do? Come on, this is what he lives for.
Yeah, he could stick around till he's 50.
That'll be fine. It's about the record, isn't it, for the oldest Grand Prix winners in their 50? I mean, it was when the cars were significantly slower. But don't worry about that.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him. He loves it, doesn't he? He absolutely loves it. And the groundwork that he's putting in now, I'm sure he would like to see the reward of that. But at the moment, it looks like it's going to be several years until they're fighting at the sharp end.
I don't know how much he loves that or this right now. This isn't the bit that he signed up for, is it? What you say is exactly right. Aston Martin now are in a rebuild. There's not going to be like the switch of a light to turn up to Melbourne or even Silverstone and be okay. It's a big process. When you're 45 in the summer and you're someone as talented as Fernando Alonso, it's maybe another opportunity that might pass him by with time. Who knows, maybe he will be around in 5 years' time for that 2031 title, finally with Aston Martin.
The 10-year plan comes good. Quiz question for both of you. Oldest driver to win a Grand Prix, how old?
Oh, 54?
Oh, it's a great guess. It's not right.
53.
It's bang on, Lawrence Moreno, you did it. Luigi Fagioli, the oldest winner of a Grand Prix. 1951 French Grand Prix. He was 53 years of age. Keep signing those contracts, Fernando. There's still a chance. Okay, just over an hour to go of this first day, and the teams out front, they're continuing a good time. Whether you are Mercedes, they're logging a lot of laps. McLaren have put laps on the board as well. Hamilton's running with Ferrari's been interrupted. The screens continue to be up at that team. Earlier on, Charles Leclerc, 70 laps on the board and the fastest time in the morning session. Red Bull have had their running curtailed earlier on with Isaac Hadjar, but he's now up to 46 laps. For your reference, it's 57 for a Grand Prix distance for the Bahrain Grand Prix. And beneath Isaac Hadjar, 8th in the classification, Carlos Sainz, and as if by magic, Bernie Collins is at Williams.
I am indeed at Williams. And what's happening at the front end of this Williams is more akin to what you might see on an operating theatre. We've got 3 mechanics on each corner with various little tools. It looks like quite a delicate operation to try and feed a tool in through the brake duct into, looks like they're trying to make an adjustment on the brake disc itself rather than the top of the suspension. There's quite a lot of work going on in order to try and get the right tool in there, get the right fit in the position that they're trying to get to make an adjustment in the car. It's happening on both fronts, like you can see here, and that car's just come back in after doing the run with the flow-vis on it that we've seen, making an adjustment on both sides of the front. I think it might be to the pull rod that they have in that front suspension. They're trying to change the length of that, so I guess a ride height change, potentially because of what they've seen from that flow-vis, from that aero flow-vis. But lots of work going on, but I just wanted to show how intricate these cars are and how hard it is at times to get what seems like quite a simple setup change done, just because they're so tightly packaged in order to get these brake discs, the drums, all of the sensors that we can see packaged under the wheel rim and the tyre. It's not the work of a moment to then make an adjustment to it. It's nice when you can put it all together on the bench, a nice cool, calm environment, but when it's hot after a run and the mechanics are trying to get in there and make an adjustment, not so easy to do at all. And both corners, like I say, struggling a bit with the adjustment they're trying to make right now, but I'm sure they will get it sorted, and I'm sure they will get the car back out.
Thank you, Bernie. Great illustration of the work being done in between runs down in the pit lane. Not serious enough for them to put the screens up. They're only making changes to the front of the car, floor not off the car. They continue to work on the Ferrari. You can just see over the screens from our commentary box position, but not looking in any state to run at this stage. As Oliver Ben appears in our picture. Driver with the strong result in Mexico City. He said Brazil was his favourite driver last year, though. More attacking than looking in the mirrors and going, oh, they're pretty quick behind me. I loved it when he was describing getting past Max in Mexico City. He was very, very nervous that he was suddenly racing at the very sharp end in Formula One. Glorious honesty from the rookie driver, who is embarking upon his second full season in Formula One.
It's always more fun to have an attacking race than a defensive race. If you're going to finish, let's say 5th place, you'd rather start 10th and finish 5th than start 1st and find your way up to 5th place. Even though the points are the same, you want to be chasing down. That's the fun of a racing driver, is to see someone ahead, hunt them down, make an overtake, check out, try and find the next one. When you are spending the race looking in your mirrors, it was a cracking few corners that set him up for that 4th place in Mexico. But when you are spending so much time sitting in a good position, looking in your mirrors, seeing faster cars hunting you down, great to get the result, but the race is so much more stressful than looking ahead and picking off some RBs in Brazil. Time for another quiz question?
Go on then.
We just saw Carlos Sainz's car there with some very intricate work going on at the front. But when was the last year Carlos didn't get a podium?
Renault, his season at Renault, 26.
Don't bring up Carlos at Renault in front of
Sorry, Club. Sorry.
That's all right. Can we go to Bernie? No, okay. We can't go to
I think that was
Bernie.
a very heartfelt apology from Lawrence there as well.
That's how you know Lawrence is a nice guy.
I felt bad.
I would have wheezy laughed should I have wandered into that. Let's have a think. I'm trying to remember when he got his first one from McLaren. When would that be? Come on, recent history. So Let's go for 2019.
2019 was his first podium in Brazil, from the back of the field.
Yeah.
So 2018 was the last time he didn't score a podium in a season. So he's actually had such a great run. Who was he driving for at the time? Renault.
I didn't want to say it again, just in case. I was too scared now. You scared
It was
me
a
off
great
saying
scene.
Renault.
It was a great
Scared me
scene.
off.
Didn't carry him to a podium. Didn't carry me to a podium. We've got that in common.
It's all going very well with 56 minutes to go. Good stat. Just shows competitive, different regulation sets, different teams. McLaren, Ferrari, and Williams. Great performance in mixed conditions in qualifying in Baku last year, and then as everyone was having a look at the World Championship battle, he was like, oh, I'll take a second podium trophy home, actually. Thank you very much. Contrasting emotions in that Qatar podium, with Max slightly bewildered. He was still in the championship fight. Oscar knowing it was slipping away, and Carlos absolutely elated that he had, at a track where Williams just had no form in the past at all, delivered. Isaac Hadjar attacking on to turn 4.
Yeah, this is going to be a push lap then. You can tell it already from the attitude of the car through 2 and 3. Such a tricky traction zone. Let's see how he deals with it out of turn 4. That was not too bad. Whoa, purple, fastest first sector of anyone. So really was giving it everything coming out of 2 and 3 to punch out onto that straight towards 4. So the right-hander down the hill at turn 8. Another difficult traction zone. Square off that exit and then bring it to the right-hand side. Over the crest, difficult braking zone this time, 9 into 10. We've spoken about it at length already. I have to say, it's neat and tidy halfway through the lap. Fighting the wheel quite well towards the exit of 11, but I don't know how you can avoid that without just driving quite under the limit there. Lost a heap of time, difficult to see where that went. Looks tidy, looks clean for Hadjar.
It is Power Hour, and that means we demand the purple sectors in Power Hour under the floodlights at the end of the day. Getting used to the tools at their disposal. And across the line, let's see what the final sector's like for Isaac Hadjar. And he moves up to 6th position with his best lap of the day, a 1:34.2.
So, what can we take from that? I would say the power-sensitive areas on the lap, he was quick. Fastest first sector, he just found a couple of tenths compared to his previous best. Takes that away from Piastri, and that is 2 long straights, big braking zone at turn 1, and then you've got to negotiate turn 4. So a couple of corners in there, but it's power sensitive, as is the final sector as well, where you've just got to deal with 13 or 14 with a long straight and a punch to the line out of that. The middle sector is where basically all the corners are, plus a little glass from 10 to 11, but it's much more grip limited, and he lost a lot of time. No obvious mistakes in there, just didn't manage to carry the speed that McLaren could.
It's an interesting comparison with Isaac Hadjar going into 6th position. He was running the C4 tyre. Hadjar continuing on. We've also got Stroll on track, Bortoleto on track. George Russell's about to roar past our commentary box on the way to opening up another lap. When he does so, Russell's going to be... he actually peels back to the pits. And we've got 59 laps, race distance worth +2 under his belt in this session. Just very diligently going about the work. Driver who's done a 33.7, very close, just 100th back on Charles Leclerc. Oscar Piastri with a benchmark of a 1:33.4. Stroll getting multiple laps in, getting a run, understanding he's got underneath, but Aston Martin just craving mileage at this stage. Personal best through sector 1, and he is on lap 18 of the day so far. See how it all adds up for Stroll. No improvement in the middle part of the lap. conditions similar to the ones that they will enjoy in qualifying for the 4th Grand Prix of the season. Stroll goes over the line, does improve up to 14th. His personal best lap of the day is a 1:36.3.
Missing nearly a second in the first sector compared to that lap we've just seen from Hadjar. And it looks like certainly an energy depleting lap as well, not a sort of race run there from Stroll. So he set it 4 seconds away, within 3 seconds now in the Aston Martin. But watching that car, it was Fernando driving it earlier on, and he did look like he was on consecutive laps, a sort of more race trip. But it did look like he was having to do a lot of harvesting at the end of the straights coming in, and you were sort of wondering if he was definitely on a fast lap. Then he'd attack entry speed and hustle through the corner. But it did look to be a little bit more energy starved, the Honda engine. And they've got a lot of work still to do there. Lance just hustling away at the wheel, but the lap time of coming and losing nearly a second in the first sector is a lot there.
Let's go trackside now with Anthony Davidson, who's watching on at turn 1.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, it's great vantage point here, turn 1 through turn 2, as you see the racing balls go by just behind me. And I remember standing in exactly the same position here this time last year. The cars look and sound very different. There goes Hadjar behind us. He was putting in a pretty fast lap a couple of laps ago, followed by Bortoletto in the Audi. And the two cars, they come into the braking zone of turn 1, very, very different. The Audi, the power unit there is very raucous. It's making such a raspy sound on downshifts. They're revving it quite high as well, as is the Red Bull powertrains of Hadjar and all the Mercedes runners as well. But there's one standout, and that was the Cadillac last time around with the Ferrari power unit, keeping it definitely in second gear. I don't think they're in third, but it's definitely a lower rev going on compared to the rest of the power units that I've heard so far. So Ferrari power unit able to carry the second gear, and it seems like all drivers are particularly keen to keep their foot constantly on the throttle as they go through the apex of turn 1. Another thing that was really obvious, here comes one of the Mercedes power unit runners in the Williams, Carlos Sainz. And you can hear that, how tentative he is getting on power on the exit. He's keen to pick up the throttle early, but he's holding his foot there in first gear. There's so much torque available at those kind of revs and those speeds. You're very limited for traction on the exit of turn 1 and therefore through turn 2 as well. Who have we got coming up here? It's Liam Lawson again in the Racing Bulls on a bit of a slower lap. There's a very high-pitched whistle. Oh, a massive lockup from Stroll down into 1. We've seen that happening a lot so far today, but it's so much more impactful standing here and watching it unfold with the naked eye. Really incredible scenes. It's been a difficult day for Aston Martin and particularly for Lance Stroll. Another one off. There's a Cadillac off as well down at turn 1, followed by the Haas, who's just come out of the pits. And I was watching here George Russell earlier on, just very carefully on older tyres. It stands out so vividly compared to Hadjar's lap, where he's clearly on the new set of medium tyres with the yellow stripes. The difference of speed that they were able to carry with Hadjar on the new tyres through turn 2 was immense compared to the limping Mercedes on those older tyres. Just George Russell having to be really careful in where he was deciding to open up the throttle through turn 2. Great stuff down here at turn 1. You can read so much into the grip that they all have available to them, the different power units, the sounds. One thing I forgot to mention with the Aston Martin and the Honda, it's the quietest power unit by far, at least from where we stand here. Here comes Sainz again. And it's only when they get onto the curb through the exit of 2 and the apex, therefore, of turn 3, that I can hear he definitely then can go full throttle. It takes him that long to pick up full throttle. Last year's cars, they were full throttle just before apex of turn 2, so a lot more grip was available then. But you know what? I'd take this any day. I love seeing the drivers have to work for it. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate the insight down there at turn 1. Wonderful place to watch Formula 1 in action, and a couple of lockups for us live trackside as well with that vantage point. And the dart up the hill with the cars clambering all over the curve as well. Ollie Bitterman heading right there with The final hour of the day is on the C2 tyre. Currently 19th fastest, building up for this one on the last lap.
Haas very content just to build up the mileage again today. Had a decent run through last week. They're quietly feeling confident. But I have been told that they're going to be looking for more performance tomorrow. So I'm not reading too much into what they can do here. They're certainly just still figuring out things on the car. Behrman has run exclusively on the hard tyres. No, he did a medium run straight away, and then he's been on the hards for a while. So tomorrow is going to be more of an interesting day, I think, for the drivers at Haas and for us watching to see how they get on with a few more performance runs. But they seem to be a team very happy with life, running that Ferrari power unit. And that's a good description from him down at turn 1, how possibly Ferrari, with what people are assuming is a smaller turbo, don't need as much spool. So the way that they can maybe run the starts is beneficial, but the way that they don't necessarily need to ram it down all the gears to get everything, to get the turbo firing up as well, could benefit the drivability, not only of Ferrari, but of Haas as well, as a customer team, and Cadillac. So there could be interesting differences that we see from track to track and corner to corner between the various options the power unit manufacturers have gone down.
Across the line we go with Oliver Behrman. He did a 1:39.0. He continues to run on the hard compound of tyres. We started the day down there at the green light watching some practice starts, and the starts, Lawrence Barretto, have dominated conversation. Been a lot to talk about in the build-up to this year, but we've had an update from the FIA about start procedure.
Yes, so the FIA often use the end of each day of pre-season testing to test out procedures that they're going to be running through the Grand Prix season, through the Grand Prix weekends. And they've said that as part of today's end-of-day procedures and throughout the second week of pre-season testing, they're going to evaluate a new race start light sequence. So around 10 minutes to go of today's session, so it's around 6:50 local time, they're going to show a red flag, and all cars will return to the pit lane. The cars will then complete a formation lap, followed by an additional formation lap before lining up on the grid for a simulated race start. So once all the cars are in position, a new pre-start warning will begin. So all grid panels will flash blue for 5 seconds, and after that warning ends, the usual start sequence will begin. So essentially they're going to get 5 extra seconds while they're sat on the grid.
And it's good for us to know what's going to come ahead of time this time as well. So it's going to be the blue panels lighting up, and the drivers will see those so clearly in the darkness as well, and that'll be their signal to find some revs, get that turbo spinning, and it's a trial to see if the starts will be much smoother, and that has been a concern after what happened last week. So we will see in 40 minutes what's going to happen.
I mean, Valtteri Bottas was saying this morning that's all it really needed, especially for those cars towards the back of the field who would have less time to kind of get themselves set before the lights come on. They only needed a few more seconds to get their engines revving to the level where they can have a smooth start.
The drivers were fairly dismissive of the starts being a big issue. I think it looked worse than it was last week because various drivers had different messages on when they should go. It's also true that I remember looking last year, and there was a time where the pole man, it was I think maybe one of Norris's pole laps later on in the season, maybe at Brazil or somewhere, and it took about 80 seconds for the whole field to form up. From him parking up, he did quite a quick formation lap. It's about 80 seconds before he launched, so you can do a flying lap in that time of everyone else coming through. So making that 85, probably not going to change the world for anyone. Already for Norris on pole position, he's got absolute oodles of time to pick up revs. He can get communication from his engineer saying last car on the grid. Even before that, get ready to find them. It's going to sound a bit strange at first, I think, for anyone in the grandstand getting an absolute racket as 22 cars now find the slightly higher pitched pre-start revs. But it will be for the teams at the back. It's just to make sure that they've got time to spool up the turbos and get ready for a non-electric assisted launch.
Lock up for Valtteri Bottas at turn 1 once again. We caught him recovering to the circuit. And then before that, a couple of replays of Lance Stroll going deep. This is on board with the 10-time Grand Prix winner heading into the first turn of the racetrack. Here comes the lockup.
he's absolutely nowhere near getting that stopped for turn one. So he was one of the two that had a lock-up, as Ant was talking as well, with Stroll. And that one, I think, is... he's absolutely miles from getting it slow. Maybe distracted by the McLaren coming out of the pits, or just arriving with a huge amount more speed. But yeah, big old lock-up. And again, it's a function of drivers starting to figure out how the cars are lap on lap. And again, for Cadillac, they're down on mileage. So Valtteri's just on 24 laps today. He's had probably 4 or 5 lockups in those 24. But because they're a little bit down on mileage, they're kind of figuring out things that other teams were able to figure out even last week. And some of the bigger teams, we haven't seen so many of these big lockups that we're now seeing from Aston Martin, from Cadillac, who are playing catch-up.
Got the lap count for you on the left-hand side. Oscar Piastri top of the times, 56 laps for him. Charles Leclerc did 70 earlier on. Long time in the garage for Lewis Hamilton, but back out there now, looking to add just 25 laps on the board for him with 40 minutes to go. And we're scrapping through 6, 7 and heading to 8. So the drivers get all the data they can about how it is to follow a car with this new regulation set. Let's go downstairs to the pit lane now with Ruth Buscombe, who's at Red Bull.
Right, I am down here near the Red Bull garage in the middle of a qualifying simulation. What is a qualifying simulation? Well, in the last hour of running, teams try to get as close as they can to what the qualifying timings would be, a bit like they try and do that in the race simulation. Isaac behind us here, he's done a run on that C3 compound, done a run on the C4 compound. And what teams are trying to do in this is to try to test their procedures, processes, get a bit of an idea both of the compound performance. Why do they do it in the last hour of testing? Well, this is the time that qualifying is going to happen. And actually, you'd ideally like to do a race simulation and a qualifying simulation at this time of day, around 5 p.m, which gives us the most representative conditions, but you're most sensitive on the qualifying trims. That Red Bull sporting a lovely new front wing, that rather bump on the front wing profile, and the outwash there, you see that vertical straight, that's brand new too. So I think they're getting a little bit of qualifying data for Isaac this afternoon. I'm going to move because I expect he's going to come right out and do another run in his virtual Q3 session that I imagine should start rather soon.
Thank you, Ruth. Isaac Hadjar down there at Red Bull in the car all day. Verstappen taking over and Red Bull, the only team to elect to do it that way around for day number 1 of the second test in Bahrain.
Big changes at the rear of the Ferrari are complete, and you can see the work that's gone on the front as well. So much flow-vis all over all the front leading edges of the Ferrari. So still trying to get some important aero data. And we've spoken so much about power unit sensitivity, about energy deployment, recharging, boost. But remember, this is a Formula 1 car, and they have to find setup parameters as well, and aerodynamic surfaces to upgrade and to fine-tune. So all of that is going on in the background, which adds to the fact that this has been the most complex winter for everyone, because there is just so much at stake. Let's not forget, we'll go to Melbourne next time out. Things like getting the pit stops right. New wheels. You've got strategies to play out with new parameters there, with battery management and a different way of thinking maybe for strategy. We don't necessarily know particularly how the deck's going to go yet in this different era. So there is so much going on, but Ferrari is still working on the aero of the car. But good to see Hamilton back out there.
George Russell with the fastest first sector of the day so far, ahead of Oscar Piastri through the first few corners of the racetrack. See if he can continue that in the middle part of the lap. Stroll's continuing on, he's 2.3 seconds off the pace. Russell on his 62nd lap of the day, and beginning to push a bit more. So we'll join him in a moment if the lap continues to be strong. Aston Martin goes over the line. Improving in sector 3. And George Russell has backed up after that purple first sector, fastest of anyone so far. And this is the reason why it was looking really good until it wasn't. Taking the full car park width of the runoff.
I thought he was going to Kimi it behind the Kimi Raikkonen it behind the support pits there. So braking and turning, you see that going on. Is it a little bit of a frustration there at the wheel?
Yeah, he was on for his best lap of the day. Hand came off the steering wheel, another lock up at turn 10.
That's the favourites tag.
There you go. Tap of the steering wheel. And Russell rejoins, but without a chance to take away the fastest time of the day from Oscar Piastri.
Frustration again, and another lockup. I said we haven't seen too many from the big guns, but when they're finding lap time as well, sometimes the drivers are finding that they're able to go quicker through an apex, they're able to stay flat on the throttle through a corner that wasn't before flat, and it kind of changes the software mapping of when the energy's coming in, so you end up maybe harvesting energy when you're not expecting it, or deploying more in various places when you suddenly find a chunk of lap time. And I wonder if George there, having done a very quick first sector, was maybe just finding that his energy deployment wasn't what he thought before, and so it's just pushing a little bit more into turn 10. Or it was just another classic driving error at a driving error inducing corner.
Let's check in with Anthony Davidson, who's made his way to turns 9 and 10.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I was actually down here already at 9 and 10 when George came in and carried a lot of speed compared to previous laps that I'd seen from anyone. He carried probably a little bit too much speed, locked up the inside front, was never going to make the corner, so carried straight on, and then, as you saw, just went the opposite direction to get the thing back around, pointing the right way. But it's fascinating standing here, and here is George actually on a slower lap after that moment. And I can see why himself and other drivers have been frustrated with this corner, and that's the reason I've come down here. I'm sinking into the sand, by the way. It literally is like a beach down here. It's like, I'm not lying. I don't know if you can see how I'm getting lower as I stand here. We really are in the desert. And you know, the drivers have got the wind to battle against as well. And lots of different cars out there. So we've got Hamilton coming up now. He looks quite confident on the brakes into this corner, followed by the Alpine of Colapinto. Hamilton, once again, that Ferrari power unit using second gear instead of first, like many others are. Here comes Piastri. The car looks good on the entry, but that part there, I see a reluctance of rotation. So he's having to be extra patient compared to the likes of Hamilton, or even this guy here, Liam Lawson, who backs out of it this time around. But previous couple of laps actually, that Racing Bulls look very good in the front end at slow speed, just tucking in, rotating the car around, and he can therefore get on the power nice and early without any extra over rotation of the rear. So, but Piastri looks like the car's just understeering a bit. He's turning in, the front is washing out. He's having to slow down more to get that rotation he wants, but the car's very good in turn 9. Looks like the downforce qualities of the car is good, but then mechanically, as you slow down and the downforce bleeds off, he's then suffering with a little bit of excess understeer. Yeah, the Cadillac looks like it's struggling a bit more. Here comes George and another fast one. Car sparking away, gets it slowed down that time. Actually, he carries second gear. That wasn't down into first, so taking a different approach there for Russell is the best thing he can do on the way the tyres are at the moment. He's taken the juice out of them from when they're newer, of course, and with that lockup probably carrying a bit of a flat spot. And way in the distance, I can see as they head towards turn 11, the rain lights flashing on and off. Here comes Hamilton again. Sounds nice and clean on the downshifts. They're very fast as well. There's no raspiness to it like the Audi has. Who is this? The Alpine again, it's Colapinto. I don't know if you can hear the difference there under my voice. I don't know if our microphones are picking it up from where I'm standing, but it's a complete contrast in the noise levels and the rasp that the Ferrari engine isn't making compared to the Mercedes power units that came past after him. It's really interesting. I mean, does it differ performance? I don't know, probably not. It just sounds the Ferrari power unit much clearer. Here's another Ferrari power unit. And again, I can hardly hear it. It's that quiet under deceleration. The Honda, very interestingly, it sounds like it momentarily disengages from any harvesting or something going on through this turn 9 braking zone. And just momentarily the revs completely drop and plummet without any sound, any hint of regen. And there's Russell once again on a slower lap, but the power unit's still doing its thing. But the car itself looks like it's got the rotation he wants when he's not locking up into turn 10 at least, compared to the McLaren. So yeah, subtle differences, but he can definitely pick it up from standing here at the side of the track. I could stand here all day and all night. It's brilliant.
Really appreciate it, and thanks for the insight. He's made his way from turn 1 and made the journey slightly up the hill into the sand dune that he finds at turn 9. And we watched George Russell trackside set the fastest time of the day so far with a 1:33.459. He finally managed to rotate the car through turn 10, eluded him a couple of minutes ago, got it done this time around and set the fastest lap of the day.
Very excited for this season. Seeing Russell just pit Piastri by 100th, Ferrari looking close as well, and we haven't seen Verstappen all day, but I'm sure he could be in the hunt. And just from the attitude of Russell, both in the car and the attitude of the Mercedes, you got the feeling that they're not hanging around. Maybe they've got some sandbags in, you know, there's all levels of it, but that was a quali sim run. Fast, back off for a lap, fast again. And yeah, the peak of the tyre probably wasn't quite there, but the track's getting more rubbed in, the temperatures are cooling, which will give him a better track evolution than Oscar had all that time ago. And yet the lap time with the same tyre, with the same power unit, is extremely close, and those with different power units can be competitive as well. Piastri, by the way, he's on a long run here, I think, so he's on a race run, having done more of his performance stuff earlier on. Russell flipped that around, so he started on a longer run and is now on the quali sim, as we've just seen.
Yeah, Piastri continuing on, old set of tyres, logging the runs, and Russell with the fastest time, set with the track conditions of a track temperature at 25 degrees under the floodlights. Similar conditions to Grand Prix qualifying later in the year.
So on this run, you've got Piastri here on a C4 tyre. You've got Hamilton out there on the test prototype tyre. They are out there on track at the same time with a similar length run. Hamilton is actually a mile quicker than Piastri. It's about a second a lap. So it's difficult to take too much from it, because maybe the C4 is the lap times are staying relatively consistent, but it might just be a really poor race tyre. Maybe the prototype tyre is very good, but McLaren did spot last week that their race run wasn't as competitive as Ferrari. Andrea Stella, part of his gambit of playing down McLaren's expectations into that 4th place were that they're not as competitive on the race run. And when you contrast that to last year, where everyone saw Norris's race run and thought, we can't match that, I do get the impression that on the longer runs, they're just missing a little bit, McLaren, compared to Ferrari out there at the same time. As I said, the tyres are very different. That could make all the difference. But combined with what we saw last week and the performance that Ferrari have had throughout the whole test, they do seem to be very competitive.
So Oscar Piastri continues, having been deposed from his earlier qualifying simulation. Charles Leclerc's time on the board on the left there is from earlier on. Lando Norris was running in the morning session as well, as was Kimi Antonelli. Had Charles gone on to an outlap for Red Bull. His morning session was interrupted with a fluid leak. Took a while to locate and fix. And a reminder for you, we're trying a different start procedure to close out the day and to close out Power Hour at the end of day 1.
Isn't this even a Power Hour? This has been... George Russell, thank you for turning up and giving us some power.
Hey, we got a new fastest time.
Yeah, thank you, George. I wanted to see a little bit more bells and whistles in the last hour. Hopefully the next 2 days, if we keep the last slot on the commentary, we get some level of Power Hour.
It's a prize slot. It's a prize slot. Might not happen. A lot of lobbying going on behind the scenes.
No, but this is the commentary sandbag. Everyone just, nah, the last hour's no good. It's no good. You want to have the first hour after lunch. That's when the magic happens and Piastri hits the front. Hamilton does his low fuel.
If you've been with us all day, we appreciate your company. You've had us on in the background. It's been great to take you through the sight of the cars on track, learning the different regulation set, how to deploy the power, what works, what doesn't work, what you shouldn't do, every lap, learning loads at the moment.
Can I wet your whistle? Isaac Hadjar on his outlap. Here he is, as if by magic. And this is...
I don't know why we're hyping this so much.
Oh, this is going to be it. Power hour, 26 minutes to go. Track at its best. We're going to be red flagged in 16 minutes' time. You got to get out there. Here's Hadjar. Ruth, ages ago, said that he was about to leave the garage. He's taken his sweet time, but waiting, and there we go. Into straight line mode and a fast lap. Mr. Isaac Hadjar. Take it away, Jakesy.
Sorry, Pam, what did you say? I was having a chat with my producer. Did you give it the full beans?
Oh, don't worry about it. We've got a couple more days to get it right.
It's all right, it'll be all right on the night. To turn 4 we go. Isaac Hadjar. That has literally never happened in the entire time we've been commentating, and it's over. It's over.
It's a shambles all round.
What a build-up, Jolien, what a build-up.
I won't tighten that up for the remaining days. Isaac Hadjar going for that quali sim and bailing out of it before he had even put a first sector on the board.
Well, you know what this does? It gives us a chance to all reset. If you're a Hadjar, you get the tyres cool again, you get the battery back up. If you're Alex Jakes, you just dial into the commentary for
right,
just
I've turned you up.
more seconds.
I've turned you up. All right, okay. There we go.
And we'll take a breather. We'll see how he gets round half a lap, and then we'll wind it up again.
At the end of that sentence, I said, did he just say take it away? That's not a great sign if he has. And Norris Barretto, being the thoroughly polite chap, did not seize the moment, didn't seize the lead mic.
I wouldn't do that to you, Jakesy.
And just in case I hadn't said take it away, you just kept it very, very ice cool, nice and level. Wouldn't want you going full blast out of nowhere.
This is day one. This is day one. Can you imagine if you hadn't said it and I just came in at 11 out of 10? All right, 24 minutes to go. Fun start procedure later on as we evaluate whether those at the back need slightly more time to spin up the turbo, to launch off the line. Lewis Hamilton continuing his evening's work. Lawrence has got an expression of like, I'm not coming back tomorrow. I'm not doing this again.
No
If you're watching at home, please come back tomorrow. We're going to do it all over again.
It's going to be bigger and better tomorrow. Massive promise and performance. That's worth tuning in for alone. Hadjar has come past, and he is going again. We're now not watching him though. Into the first sector. Hamilton is continuing on his long run. Still lapping, now way quicker than Piastri. So I think Piastri's C4 tyres are going away pretty quickly. Hadjar's first sector is 4/10 down.
Yeah, the gallery paying no attention, even if he was fastest. They're not trusting us with another push lap after that shambles. 29.9 for Hadjar. Not even a personal best through the first sector of the racetrack.
This is not ideal for Hadjar because obviously Max is in the car for the full day tomorrow, and then Hadjar won't only get the morning session on the final day, which means this is the last chance he's going to get in these representative conditions to really push the car. So obviously he's going to want a cleaner run as possible.
And he's on a C4 tyre, which won't hang around for him. So he's in the middle sector. See if he's still leaning on it through this part of the lap. He's a second down on Piastri. So we know already that the Red Bull, his previous time was a long way down in the middle sector. So I think he's trying to hang on to the lap, but that Red Bull's got to be quick in the first and third from what we saw from Hadjar earlier on. So when he's 4/10 down in the first part of the lap, it's not boding well in total, and the C4 is probably past its best now, having done an extra couple of laps.
Let's go down to McLaren, where we can see them standing by for pit stop practice. Here's Oscar Piastri. Kimi Antonelli watching on.
Watching a tidy stop for his rivals. And so the pit crew got to stay sharp. It's not that long since Abu Dhabi, where they had to be razor sharp in that decider. But when there is so much else in play, and you're busy fettling with the cars, you're busy thinking about so many other things, new cars, new power units, putting it together, taking it apart, actually dialing back into race mode as well, and getting these pit stops seamless. That will win or lose you a race in Melbourne. So Barry could take some confidence from a well-executed stop there.
They're staying sharp. Oliver Behrman's just done his best lap of the day in the Haas. He's done a 1:35.7. Lewis Hamilton continuing on. Gabriel Portoletto's done his personal best first sector as well, so we await the Audi driver. Here he is.
So hopefully stick with him for the second half of the lap. So let's see how much curb he takes in towards 11. Not too much, not too much. Not having the confidence to go fully abusive on that entry curb. Swinging it through turn 12. You can see the harvest light on the back, since he's backed out of it through the high speed, and not deploying the electric power. Keeping that charge for this final blast to turn 14, and then make sure you've got something left to get out of it, because that is half your power, and he certainly has, because he's squirming on the gas, trying to get that extra 470 horsepower down, and he comes through and improves his time up into the top 10 for Audi. Lawrence Audi.
Talk, Lawrence, talk.
What do you think? They've been quiet so far, haven't they?
I think they've done a good job getting the car to a shakedown. The first team to get the car to a shakedown. I think they did a great job bringing a big upgrade package to Bahrain in the first week of pre-season testing. I think they've had a lot of niggles throughout Barcelona and into the first week in Bahrain, and that kind of is what happens when you put a lot of new things together. I think they are definitely behind where they would like to be, as Jonathan Wheatley admitted today in the press conference. But I think we've got to remember how big a project this is. Yes, they've taken over the Sauber team. Yes, they've already got the existing facility in Hinwil in Switzerland from the chassis side of things, but they've created a new department in Audi HQ in Nürburgring to create this power unit, first for 2026. They've got a lot of work that they've got to put together, and I think naturally when you start trying to up the ante, fuse those two components together for the first time, there are going to be a few niggles. So I think Audi go in knowing what a challenge Formula One is. They've said they want to fight for World Championships by 2030, so they've given themselves a bit of a runway to get to that point. But it hasn't been as smooth a sailing as they would have liked to have been through testing so far. And I think you can hear that when you talk to Nico Hülkenberg and you talk to Gabriel Bortoleto. You can feel like they're making progress, but maybe it isn't quite the car that they wanted at this point in pre-season testing.
Audi champions 2030 before Aston Martin get their 10-year plan sealed in 2031. It's easy to underestimate how much work goes into starting a power unit program from scratch, and that's what Audi have had to do. So even though they've taken over the Sauber team, they've been working for a while on it. So I think it's why everyone's so impressed with Red Bull, what they've managed to bring to even Barcelona and find reliability and a good level of performance. That seems to be the toughest thing for Audi is integrating the power unit and getting on top of that, and they're the only team with the Audi power unit, of course.
I think that makes a difference. I think you've got teams like Mercedes who've got customers that they can learn a lot more about their engine, so they'll just get a bigger data set on the power unit side of things. Like you said, Audi only got that one team, but Red Bull at least have got their sister team in Racing Bulls who are running their power unit. I think from the Red Bull perspective, they only started their engine program from scratch, from a blank sheet of paper 3.5 years ago. They built a new facility on their Milton Keynes campus where the racing team is built. Admittedly, they took on a lot of staff who've recently worked for Mercedes, you know, the class leader from a power unit perspective in Formula One over the last couple of years. But the job that they've done to make an engine that's so reliable, I think if you talk to many people in the team, they'll admit they're pleasantly surprised at just how well it's gone. We just don't know from a performance perspective where it stacks up. If you listen to Laurent Mekies, the team boss at Red Bull, who was speaking in the press conference earlier today, he'll say they're not quite on the level of the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari, but we just don't know yet. They haven't started stretching their legs. And I think even if they're not quite on that level, to Jolyon's point, it's no small task to create your own power unit from scratch. We saw how much Honda struggled when they came back to the sport first with McLaren.
Yeah.
We're seeing that they're having a bit of a tougher start now as well. It's a huge challenge, so wherever they're at, and if they're in that kind of ballpark with Mercedes and Ferrari, it's a phenomenal job.
Yeah, a lot of respect for the job they've done in the paddock last week, and the ultimate performance is shown. It'll be fascinating to see where that project collaboration now with Ford lines up on the grid. And Lance Stroll, Aston Martin, parked up, wheels off, and the count for the day for Stroll standing at 26 laps.
It looks very much like they're done for the day then. Packed up, ready to debrief already. Don't know what the latest issue was there with Lance, why he's not out there trying to get anything more. But there is only 6 minutes left of green flag running. Then we're going to have this start procedure for the end of the session. So seem to have plenty of lockups, fighting the car, learning things that other teams were learning last week already, and Aston Martin's lack of reliability is hurting them so much.
Isaac Hadjar, Lewis Hamilton, close proximity down the main straight. Active aero with front and rear wing elements open.
This is sort of long run against long run here. Hadjar on much fresher tyres. Hamilton has been out there for a 16-lap stint now. Hadjar, we saw him embark enthusiastically on his C4 run.
Side by side we go to turn 4, and makes his way by. So the overtake data stored for team and driver, and he makes his way on the fresher tyres past Lewis Hamilton.
So 7 laps on this C4. It was a new set when he left, so thought that screamed of sort of quali sim, especially the way that he behaved in terms of going very slowly, then firing it up out of the final corner. But it's obviously carrying plenty of fuel, which equates to sandbags at this stage, doesn't it? You never know who's running what, and being able to run that extended stint now at the end shows that there's plenty in that Red Bull, rather than just doing an out one push and bringing it back in.
It's on board with Hadjar, climbing the hill to turn 4, Ferrari ahead. And he's able to get by.
So I think if I'm racing around Bahrain here with this set of rules, the overtaking into turn 4 I think is a good option, because there's very little chance of them coming back in terms of if you deplete your energy store, your battery, up into 4, you don't have to be a sitting duck really coming out of it. It's such a short run towards turns 5 and 6. And then in that infield section, whether or not you've got a bit of boost available to try and attack or defend, it's not going to make a massive difference. If you overtake into turn 1 and you've got nothing left for this straight, you're going to be in a real pickle. So it's going to be up to the drivers, I think, strategically to work out, a little bit like DRS games we've seen in the past, potentially. If you overtake at 1, you might just be repassed at the very next straight. We've seen that before. The Leclerc-Verstappen fight at the start of the last set of regs in 2022. Brilliant opening race of the season, new set of regs, and a battle that went on for plenty of corners, and then went to Jeddah as well with a similar thing. I think it could be a new level of racecraft tactics with when you deplete your battery, because how quickly can you recharge, and you don't want to then deplete everything before another long straight, because you'll just be repassed.
Tactical aspect, something all the drivers are going to have to get used to. Of course, if you've got nothing to lose and you're in the middle of the pack and you just want to deplete it all immediately, get the track position, get the air time, could be a very, very chaotic opening couple of laps in the few races that we have to start the season. The back-to-back rounds in Melbourne and then China to open the campaign.
It's going to be the equivalent of that Mexico fight last year. I'm trying to think, was it Russell and Verstappen side by side?
Yeah.
And then before you know it, Russell's off, he's lost 4 places, Verstappen's lost a couple, and Behrman just picks his way through. If cars are in a train and 2 of them go all guns blazing at one corner and deplete everything, get scruffy through an apex, you're going to find a car that's a fair way back that can just blast past both of them with a good bit of overtake and deploying your energy when the others don't have it. It will make a massive difference having 350 kilowatts to deploy if the others are just dead in the water like that.
George Russell coming back to his team. Fastest time of the day, 75 laps on the board. And the launch from the pit stop complete. Up on the jacks and back to the garage for Russell. Piastri, the second fastest time of the day, 100th back. He is on lap 70 of his session. Lando Norris earlier on putting 54 laps on the board. Are a minute away from the red flag and then a testing of this new start procedure, which the FIA have told us about in advance. Not everyone appears to be keen to take part. Some cars in the garage. We've already seen Lance Stroll parked up, wheels off. George Russell pushed back into the garage a few moments ago.
Good day for McLaren, I would say, as we see Piastri just grind the underside of the car all over the curb. But it has been a good day for them. Plenty of laps for Norris, 54. A decent haul this morning and consistent pace as well. No really snappy handling characteristics. Little bits to fine-tune still, but it is only little bits rather than anything particularly sinister. And I think Piastri's had a solid afternoon. We will get the numbers from the long run and see if there's comparable data, because as I said, he was quite a lot slower than Hamilton, but Hamilton was on a favourable tyre, so there'll be an offset in there. Someone will be busy working out what that is. If they won't, it'll be me. And we'll be back tomorrow with some big news of McLaren's long run pace. But I think they've had a good day. Mercedes ending top is never a bad thing for Russell. Still a little bit more to fine tune there as well. Ferrari solid. Agile 66 laps of meaningful of action. Now we're into the VSC and the procedures at the end. So he's managed to get something back on the board. It's not a complete disaster. Running through this is quali sims, having a slightly longer run towards the end as well, but it's compromised for Red Bull.
Okay, we can go down to the end of the pit lane where Ruth Buscombe is standing by.
Yep, down here at the end of the pit lane with our newest addition to Formula One, Cadillac Formula One team. Now, I have to say, I'm pretty impressed with the amount of mileage they've done today. Even with the sensor issue they had this morning that hampered some of Checo's running time. There's a couple of little sensor issues. Classic testing gremlins, especially for a brand new team. They've now done 59 laps, and actually one of the best days so far, if not their best day. 3.3 seconds off the pace of the fastest lap today, and only 0.2 off Lindblad. And I think Didge is going to have to get out of the way rather soon because every single car is just about to come in, because we're just about to start a procedural test. So we're going to get a bit of a practice pit stop down here in Cadillac, and I expect in a bunch of different other teams. And then we're going to have a full starts procedure, which is one of the cool things that strategists tend to look forward to, because we get to check all of our simulations are working.
Thank you, Ruth. The red flag is out, as advertised by the FIA. So we're going to have the red flag. The car's going to come back to the pit lane and line up in the fast lane. All looking good so far. Then we're going to get the pit exit open. Cars will leave the pit lane to go back on the grid. We'll then test the system's work for that extra formation lap. Cars reposition on the grid, and then we'll see the 5-second blue light warning. The standard start light procedure to close out the action today. We told you earlier in the session, it's not a spoiler alert of what we're getting. Just running you through the order of play to close things out in the final 7.5 minutes. George Russell there with the fastest time today, which was a 1:33.459. We'll do the full classification before we go off air as well, and then we'll do 8 hours tomorrow and 8 hours the day after that. But Mercedes looking good with George Russell once again, and great day for mileage for Mercedes as well. We saw 76 laps for Russell, and Antonelli did 69 earlier on as well. So after a few gremlins, setup issues before, we find ourselves with Mercedes getting plenty of running in, everyone queuing up.
Might have a full grid for the start. Maybe minus Aston Martin. The boards are up, and we did see Stroll's car very much not in shape to be going, not in a position to be going. We're gonna have maybe a 10-car start. That's what you get in Power Hour, isn't it? Stay right till the end.
This is your reward if you've been with us all day, is whatever is about to happen.
Quite nice for the drivers as well, I think, just to have a little dial-in on procedures, red flag, an aborted start, and then eventually a race start with the lights coming on and actually sit it through. So it's I'd say a little bit of a luxury at the end for the drivers that will no doubt be hot, bothered and sweaty right now, having mostly completed a good amount of laps, waiting for the green light.
Queue forming. There's the green light at the end of the pit lane. So start procedure practice underway. Ferrari plenty of times across the course of the day. It's looked like it's had fluid coming out of the back of it.
It's a lot of exhaust fumes, aren't there?
It's an odd one because it's been noticeable. So you sometimes get that with a little bit of overfill when they leave the pit lane, but that's been something all the way through. It's one of those where it's like, let's just see if that's a problem. It's not a problem. Let's just see if that's a problem. But that has been noticeable for Ferrari all the way through. They've got a little rear wing around their light at the back as well. A little tiny wing that's caught the eye of many in the pit lane. Ferrari bringing updates again. Smoking away at the back.
You can see it again there, actually, on this outlap as well.
Right, so they make their way from the pit lane, doing the full procedure, getting into the spirit of it. I love it. Proper warm-up as well. They're getting the full data for this. Not just a box-ticking exercise, they're actually going through the full sim.
Honestly, this is not straightforward in this year. Trying to get,
as we saw at the end of test number 1,
trying to get heat into the tyres without depleting your battery. So you've got to be a low throttle and therefore lower speed. That's why everyone's doing plenty of weaving, to see how much front tyre temp they can get without actually just building the speed and hammering the brakes, which was always your most efficient way of picking up tyre temp. So now we're going to see a lot more snaking, I think. A lot more of this, just weaving old school style, because you can't just build up the speed. You'll just deplete the battery. You can't start the race with basically not a full battery. So there's plenty for these guys to work on. Now we get the burnouts. Make sure the rears are up to temp as well. That's going to be what gets you off the line. Tension builds. Over to you, Alex Jones.
This time I heard. Wonderful experience from the commentary box to hear the revs so dramatically high. Couple of gaps left. Carlos Sainz has left a row on purpose. So it's do what you want at this stage. You can see the new warning light flashing on the wing mirrors. Another addition to this year. Drivers moving into place, forming up properly. And then we're expecting the yellow lights on the gantry and the extra formation. That was advertised early on, but you never know with the start procedure at the end of the day. Looks like a fairground on the grid at the moment.
Keeping those yellow lights up all the time for race starts.
There we go. There's the extra formation lap. And Piastri moves away. As does Liam Lawson, Carlos Sainz, and it's a little bit more information at the back. Hadjar off the line, Bortoletto now. Russell, Bottas, and Behrman clearing the grid. Okay, and then slowly away from the line. Not with the same enthusiasm of those at the front. Here we go. So they're getting the data for how the car responds to this. Jolien was talking you through what happens when you go beyond a certain point of standing on the throttle. We saw the last time that we were practicing this at the end of the first test, Franco Colapinto with a big moment that would have caught his attention. Not what you need last thing on a Friday, the end of a work week. Anyway, he gathered it all up and was able to take his practice start. Piastri's leading them round, just like he was when he was on pole here 1 year ago.
You want to be first car in the train, don't you?
That's the aim.
Technical.
That's the aim.
He has carte blanche to do what he likes. Everyone else has to just follow the car ahead, so Hamilton glued to the back of Colapinto. So the drivers can use the speed at the start of the lap, which is why you saw the speed build, but then at some point they have to decide enough's enough, and now I need to recharge the battery and I cannot afford to use it because I won't be able to top it back up. So for the first half of the lap, and certainly down towards turn 4, they're able to build that speed and get the tyre temp, and then they have to do it a lot more just by weaving, still braking as well, but without getting that top speed that otherwise you'd maybe hang back slightly and build up speed and maybe overlap a bit of brake and throttle. Let's take 2 then.
So to the line we come with our contenders in the afternoon session. Isaac Hadjar's been in the car all day, everyone else jumped in after the lunch break. And now it's burnout time. The drivers understanding how these cars respond across the course of the shakedown of test number 1. Again, Carlos not fancying lining up in 3rd. He's left an entire row's gap. It's one of these glorious moments to stand up and watch the action out of the commentary box as everyone moves into position.
Yeah, they're all leaving a row. So it's row 1 and then row 3, row 5. So just to make sure if anything does go wrong, they're not going to spear into the back of a stationary car.
Yeah, smart stuff when you're testing it out, which is what we're doing. The grid illuminated with the warning lights.
You can hear the revs rise early. Here we go.
So we waited. And here we go. Everyone leaving the line in unison. It wasn't one by one. And nice stuff from Isaac Hadjar. He jumps ahead. Oscar Piastri down to turn number 1. And he maintains the lead that he had. And we're elbows out. Oh, wonderful. Well, we've missed this. Everyone behave themselves. The last thing you want to do is damage the front wing and go back to the grumpiest set of mechanics that you'd ever face by giving them more work at the end of the day. And that, my friends, is day 1 of testing of test 2 in Bahrain.
Good news that the cars all left the grid together and managed to get away. Good news that it doesn't look easy either. There was a lot of wheel spin. This is going to be far from the kind of orchestrated starts that we've had, because the technology and the clutch control and everything was by and large absolutely nailed on. We're going to see some random starts, I think, in Melbourne. Even though that was much better, the system seems to work, everyone had time. I thought the best start was by Bottas at the back. I thought the Cadillac was going to roar through to lead into turn 1.
Boost, boost, boost. Keep pressing it. Fascinating to see that all play out. I can tell you, if you've got a ticket for the main grandstand at any Grand Prix this year, you're in for a treat. The start's already pretty special. The noise with the revs now, it's amazing.
I want to sit somewhere towards turn 1 in Melbourne. Well, I will be. That's where the commentary boxes are.
Yeah, it's in the
lucky day.
It's in the braking zone. It's in the braking zone. It's blurry stuff out of the window.
It's one of those, the commentary box, often as we are now, up in the...
Thank you so much for your company today. We will do it all again tomorrow with every minute live for day 2. Thanks to the whole team in the UK and at track. And it's George Russell setting the pace for Mercedes. 1:33.459, 76 laps on the board. Plenty of lockups, plenty of wide moments, and plenty learned for the team out there. My thanks to Jolien Palm, my thanks to Lawrence Barretto, my thanks to you for your company across the last 8 hours. We'll do it all again tomorrow for day 2 when Formula One returns for more testing in Bahrain. Join us tomorrow if you can.